5 o'clock traffic, I'm moving slow. I'm in the right lane, that's the usual. Time is feeling static, it's all my fault. Cause when you switch lanes, then you lose it all. Oh, I wish that things went a little different. All the small things that I didn't know I'd be missing. I miss driving in the HOV, just you and me, no hurry. I miss dinners that we wouldn't eat, cause it wasn't cheap, no worries. I miss all the little things that we did but didn't notice. You never know a good thing until it's gone. I miss driving in the HOV, now life moves somewhat slowly. I got a list of reasons you'll live forever in my head. Remember spending weekends watching whatever's playing next. Remember when the seasons when you were cold and got upset. I guess we're never even. I said some things that I regret. Embrace the time that I got used to. A state of mind that's no longer new. I'll chase this high of getting close to you, of getting close to you. Oh, I wish that things went a little different. All the small things that I didn't know I'd be missing. I miss driving in the HOV, just you and me, no hurry. I miss dinners that we wouldn't eat, cause it wasn't cheap, no worries. I miss all the little things that we did but didn't notice. You never know a good thing until it's gone. I miss driving in the HOV, now life moves somewhat slowly.
Yeah. Now don't ask me no questions, just listen to this shit. She catch a one-way flight to kick it wherever I'm at. So if she wanna stay, then the bitch will never come back. You wanna know how a chip feel? I've been there once. This year 3 in the beginning of a 10-year run. And as predicted, my persistence got my name on all them lists. Had a brick before rap, like that dope boy from Memphis. I survived all them death threats and 3 felony convictions. Plug found out my whole team was hot, he kept his distance. What's a stage with no mic and no voice of a poet? What's more important, the flower or the soil that grow it? Yeah, it's cool, but one rule, don't get caught in a moment. Or it's back to swinging ratchets and warming the water. Starving made me thin, and ain't no mercy in this game we in. Odds stacked against us, had to play to win. I got a broad I never saw before 1 a.m. I'm out west and crazy girls cleaning out the ATM. Let's go.
Phone so burnt, I need my pager back. Trips with that work, my baby made it back. I fuck with them hoes, I know she hated that. You gon' cry in that Toyota or this Maybach?
This for hustlers with straight cash, not bitches with fake bags. For hoes who fall in love with trappers and break bad. She texting my homie, but I'm fucking hers. She fake mad. These hoes can't handle a nigga they can't have. Unlucky for y'all, you know who the fuck is in charge. I put a couple in jars, let it fluff till it's hard. I'm at J House, Kerry James Marshall, cover the wall. Enough cushion I could cover the fall. You know business is business, bitches is bitches, and they fucking us all. You know how life go, you stuck with your flaws. What's that about? They had me fucked up. Niggas thought I'd suffer for long. I'm trying a day from the feds. Go to sleep with an alarm and a K on the ledge. And a fireproof 1,000-pound safe in the crib.
Phone so burnt, I need my pager back. Trips with that work, my baby made it back. Fuck with them hoes, I know she hated that. But you gon' cry in that Toyota or this Maybach? I said fuck it, one gon' do a verse. Bought some ugly white girl when I whipped it, it's Miss Universe. Migo brought them chickens on the bird, that's that scooter work. I control my bitches, only fans, I got computer work. Freddie Kane, I keep a college bitch on the 94 with the waist stash. Baby daddy bought her that fake Brody, she fake mad. Butcher and the rabbit, goddammit, check our credentials. Hoes get fucked and sent home early, just like the Clippers. Is you with it, bitch? Phone so burnt, I need my pager back. Trips with that work, my baby made it back. Fuck with them hoes, I know she hated that. But you gon' cry in that Toyota or this Maybach?
This person said that about your lovable, wonderful towel. I think I want to play a song while that tweet is up on the screen, because you know what? I was raised in a beautiful country called the United States of America. I want to dedicate this to, let's see, Kate Peter and Tuesday Gazette and Julie Carpenter and Ginny James, and then let's see, any other person on Kate Peters' Discord. Oh, Jason Broyles, he's a weird one. And then, you know, not Biff and Boomer, they're gonna flip, you know, Biff and Boomer flipped, federal indictments are imminent. But you know, everyone else that is Kate Peters' friend, I have a message to you and your Shrek-based odd cult leader. Okay, ready? Let's do it.
For you and you and you, I hate your friends and they hate me too. I'm through. This that hot girl bummer anthem, turn it up and throw attention. This that hot girl bummer anthem, turn it up and throw attention. This that throw up in your Birkin bag, hooked up with someone random. This that social awkward suicide, that violence and I like to switch me at them, never city to the winning stage and acting out this type of music. Friends are all annoying.
Hi. Hey, how you doing? Hey, look at that. I have a new towel mic. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Towel, you're going to tell us that you wanted to try to adjust the amount of background noise with the cooling fans for the electronics, so you got a new mic. But are you really trying to tell us you forgot your big microphone at the courthouse because it was such a busy day and you're just trying to cover for that? Well, not really. It's actually a bit of both. But yeah, let me just be forthright with you. I forgot the other microphone at the courthouse. Chief is going to find it and be like, damn it, Grant. But you know, overall, you can't really complain when I get everything but the, you know, giant microphone. So, you know, we have this microphone now. It's great. It's a hands-free microphone. It just sits on me. I move around. It comes with me. This is great. I've never felt so liberated. I have free hands. I don't know what to do with them. What am I supposed to do? I don't understand. Do I, like, take over the world now? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, my name's Grant Smith Ellis. Good to see you all. You know, change is very hard for Towel, okay? So not having my blue microphone here, I don't know what to do. It feels like a part of my soul is missing, all right? I've been divided into some kind of Horcrux and split across the Norfolk County courthouses. Anyway, my name is Grant Smith Ellis. It was quite a day today, so I'm sure a lot of you want to know what happened at the Proctor Gate hearing. The best way to describe it to you is it's not over, and we will have round 2 and round 3. This was just round 1. So it's not Ollie Liston 2, it's closer to Ollie Foreman, you know, or Ollie Frazier. We're going like at least 11 rounds, more likely 3. So find some boxing fight involving Muhammad Ali that went 3 rounds and insert the relevant comparison there. But, you know, I'm making you do the work this tonight. I'm a little tired. The point remains the same. So we thought we were going to get, you know, some kind of, for some reason, the people were talking about having some kind of barbecue. I imagine this is some kind of pun on the word pig roast, but I was not brought into the loop. So I don't, you know, it's one of those things where I'm not with it anymore. I don't know what it is, but people were talking about a barbecue. There wasn't really a barbecue today. There was more, let's see. There was more, Rosemary Scapicchio was going to make Adam Lally answer questions about Michael Proctor's racist text messages, but then Adam Lally was like, but I didn't know about Michael Proctor's racist text messages back in, like, I don't know, whenever the Miles King case was going on, 2021, 2022, 2023. And so Judge Krupp at that moment was like, well, you know, Attorney Scapicchio, yeah, I don't really know what the relevance of this is. He says he didn't know about them. He knows about them now, but everybody knows about them now. And Rosemary was like, well, that kind of tanked the plan. But then Rosemary had a backup plan, all right? She had a backup plan. And her backup plan was to ask Judge, well, Michael Proctor's coming in for his, it turns out the reason Michael Proctor wasn't there is Michael Proctor wants to assert the Fifth Amendment. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Grant, what are you, no, yes, he does. This is what we were told. Whether or not this is actually going to happen, I don't know. Rosemary Scapicchio seems intent on making it happen. But so we get up there in court, you know, and everybody's sitting around. Ted Daniels there, the media's there, Boozy Beauty was there, the Queen of France, and Mr. and Miss Sweeney, and all the other wonderful towel friends. Julie, craziest person on earth. A lot of towel friends. It was great. I got to hug a lot of people. I got to give people sign of the cross. I was having a great day. You know what I'm saying? I was having a great time. I don't know what the hell was going on with everybody else. It was a little rough in there. But you know, I was just chilling. And I told Chief about how I wrote a book. He was like, "What's the title?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know if you should have asked." So anyway, you know, I'm sitting there, all right? And Rosemary Scapicchio, as she gets to her crux of her argument about Proctor, says, well, you know, Judge, he's under subpoena, but he wants to claim the Fifth Amendment. So I think we're going to have a hearing on that. And then Judge was like, oh no, I want a hearing on more than just that. I want a full day hearing with all these remaining witnesses. And then Judge kind of went down the list and was like, okay, Tully, yes. Well, he didn't say yes to Tully. He just didn't say no to Tully. So he said yes to Tully by omission. So he was like, the only one I really have a question about is the DA, one of the DAs. Like, she wasn't on the case at like the relevant time. I don't know why you want to call her. So I need to look at this. And then I'll make a ruling quickly on who I will allow to testify. That's a full day hearing. That's going to be, I believe, September 22nd or 23rd. You want to double check that. But before we even get there, now we got to mark on our calendar September 14th because Judge Krupp wants to bring in Michael Proctor, or Rosemary Scapicchio wants to bring in Michael Proctor, who's apparently going to assert the Fifth Amendment and refuse to answer questions. Now you're going to hear a press conference with Rosemary Scapicchio where Rosemary is going to explain the quizzical nature of this statement. But let's just let Rosemary sort of say what she has to say, and then I shall continue along my merry way. Actually, the next, after we listen to Rosemary, we're also going to talk about how Proctor withheld a ring video from Lally and made him look really dumb on the stand. All right, so we're going to do all of those things in order. Fervent actually got a great clip. Now, you may have seen, if you were watching the feed today, all 20,000 of you who did, I was switching back between and forth between the HD camera and the webcam. One of the more interesting moments about Proctor and the ring footage being withheld from Lally came during a moment when the non-HD cam was running. However, I have the capacity. I figured out what was going on. I need a lot more batteries for my camera. So I'm just going to get like 5. And I have to have them all ready. And then I can go for like 5 hours. But when, like today, it was a little trial and error. All right, trial and error, shall we say. Trial and towel error. So let's listen to Rosemary Scapicchio. Let me just turn the quality down from 1080p because the computer will get all made. All right, let's take a look at Rosemary Scapiccio's comments leaving court today, filmed by Towel News. So I just want you to understand, not only did I film this interview, not only did I act as the court cameraman, not only was I reporting, but while I was filming the interview, I had my still camera in my other hand and I was taking pictures of Rosemary. I'm just a one-man band, you don't understand. All right? You must understand. This is my picture from during this interview. So I have my phone in my left hand, my camera in my right hand, my backpack like on the ground, like I'm like, oh, everything's just everywhere, and I'm like pulling this off. I must have looked absolutely ridiculous, but you know what? It's not really how you look. It's whether or not you get the shot. You know, that's how I think about it. So here's Towel with a phone in his left hand and a camera in his right hand, like falling over. I had to like put my backpack down because it was too much. I was gonna fall over. I can't even push myself that hard physically. A camera and a phone in each hand is a lot for little Towel. I'm lucky I didn't break the camera. All right, but everything worked fine. I'm not gonna push it that hard again though. That was a lot.
Hi, how are you? Good.
So you have a date now,
The 14th, due for Proctor to show up.
and what is your thought on that in terms of him actually coming in and testifying?
Well, we're going to notify his lawyer that he's been ordered to be here, and then we'll see what happens from whether or not he's going to comply with the court order.
In terms of the recordings that you wanted to play, can you talk about them?
I can talk about the recordings. They were some audio recordings that he had left on a group chat that he was involved in that entailed racist comments and jokes that he had with his friends. One of them was the comment where he said, slow roll it to an accident because it involved a black person. So what I wanted to do with that information is ask this witness, as the prosecutor in the case, had he known that Proctor held those views, would he have kept Proctor on the case? But the judge indicated that because this witness said he didn't know about these, that I couldn't ask this witness, I have to do it through my expert, which we intend to do.
Will you need a subpoena for Proctor on the 14th, Rosemary?
No, Proctor has actually already been subpoenaed. He was recognized to appear the last time he was here, so we just need to notify his lawyer of the date.
And you mentioned that your expert will be testifying at trial whether Proctor takes the stand or not.
Yes.
Is that to make sure that these texts are
Well, that's to be able to make sure in the record there is some documentation as to what the texts actually have, what the photos are, what the voicemails are, what the emails are, and how they would have affected a person's ability to do an independent investigation. Because it's our position that once you read these, there's no way that you could ever come to a conclusion that you could have this type of explicit bias against black and brown people, where you've dehumanized them at every turn, and then you turn around and do an independent investigation that anybody should rely on. We're saying that it's completely unreliable and that it should be thrown out from the very beginning, and that's why we're asking that the case get dismissed.
What are Michael Proctor's options for trying to fight coming to court on the 14th?
What are his options?
Does he have, can his lawyer come in and
His lawyer can
try
file
to-
whatever his lawyer
try to
wants to
squash
file,
the-
but right at this point, he's a witness in this case. Our whole second supplemental motion to dismiss is about his racism. So the court has said he's relevant to these proceedings, and the court wants to find out whether or not he intends on invoking any type of Fifth Amendment privilege to prevent him from testifying in these proceedings.
Rosemary, where does this Fifth Amendment issue come from?
That's up to him. I don't see a Fifth Amendment. I don't know that he has a Fifth Amendment. My understanding is in the civil case, he was asked questions in the civil case with Karen Reed, and he did not invoke his Fifth Amendment. So, he can't selectively invoke. He can't invoke in the civil case and not invoke or try to invoke in the criminal case. That's not a thing. Any other questions I can answer for you?
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wow. So that was the three highlights. I mean, the one thing Rosemary didn't talk about, and I should have asked about, but I was very focused. The press conference was about Proctor. We'll get more into, I'm sure, when Proctor gets called, what Lally said about Proctor hiding the Ring video. But I probably should have asked a clarifying question about the Ring video, because I don't think anyone... I'll let you listen to the clip. I'm not really sure anyone really understood. I saw some people correctly summarize what I heard, but I'm not even sure I understood what exactly went down with this Ring video. From the best I was able to understand. So, all right, let's back up a little bit. And if you're like, great, you are not a subject matter expert on the Miles King case. Yeah, I am. I read the fucking motion to dismiss and the supplemental motion to dismiss and the response to the motion to dismiss and the response to the supplemental motion to dismiss and the other fucking motions. I don't even want to tell you how many motions I read on a weekly basis. It's a lot. So anyway, I know this case really well. What happened was, there was... Let me make sure I get the victim's name correctly. That's where I want to start, and then we'll go from there. Marquise Simmons. Okay, I knew Mr. Simmons' last name. I did not know his first name off the top of my head. Marquise Simmons.
It's very odd. It's what happened was let's actually back up. This is one of those cases where you can't start with the crime. You have to start with the investigation. So
Michael Proctor is the investigator on a murder. Okay, a man has died, Marquis Simmons, in his driveway in, I want to say Milton, okay, Massachusetts. And Michael Proctor goes to the cop who responded to the scene and found Mr. Johnson bleeding out and dying. Now, Mr. Johnson is dead by this point. And oddly, the cop says that Mr. Simmons was yelled out as he was dying. It's called a dying declaration. Mizzy Cash shot me. Mizzy Cash shot me. Okay, well, Mizzy Cash is Miles King. That's Miles King's rap name and street name. Okay, it is what it is, all right? I have to analyze the facts. I can't do anything about the fact that people are selling crack cocaine on pretrial probation, okay? Maybe then this wouldn't be a fucking national story, all right? I can't do anything about the facts. You make me all mad. Miles King looked over at me today and was just like, yeah, I know. So anyway, my point is, all right, so from that point, now here's what's a little weird. Mr. Simmons' mother is also interviewed by the police. She's there with the cop and her dying son. She doesn't say anything about this dying declaration. In fact, he threatened me or something, but he doesn't identify anyone, okay? All right, now it's where it gets weird. Come the grand jury, the mother has changed her story, and now she's insistent that she heard her son say, and
I'm serious. She said that to the grand jury. Okay? Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, did Miles King shoot Marquis Simmons? Yeah, he did. Okay? Now, here's where the trickery comes in. Michael Proctor most likely pulled illegally cell phone data. He was cheating to clear the homicide. Your clear rate is very important. Okay? A homicide clear rate. Let's make sure this is. Oh, we're on the wrong mic. That whole time, I was telling you, oh, I have this new mic. We were on the wrong mic. You're actually just listening to me talk into my computer. So 1 second. Oh, that's what happened. Hold on. All right.
It's gonna pause for a second. I want my microphone to switch back. All right, how about now? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, now we have my better mic. All right, so this mic is fine. I just have to watch it. It has this blue light, and if the blue light is not, it's a new mic. I haven't used it before. So if the blue light is not blinking, the mic isn't working. It will switch to my other mic, but that other mic is terrible. So I have to pay attention to that blue light. I'm sorry. Change confuses Towel. All right, so back to the story. So Michael Proctor most likely grabs a bunch of cell data illegally that shows that Miles King was in the area of the murder at the time of the murder. No one else will talk. This is a place where people don't talk. Okay? Every witness refuses to talk. Every one of them invokes the fifth and will not talk. In fact, one of them invoked the fifth in front of none other than Judge Robert Cosgrove. Oh yeah, before he left the bench. The judge on, the prosecutor on the Turtle Boy cases. So, Proctor cannot legally get the warrants to get in my opinion, it's called parallel reconstruction. or parallel construction, Proctor cannot legally get the warrants to get the cell data he knows puts Miles King at the scene of the murder at the time of the murder, which is enough for an arrest warrant. So, the convenient dying declaration. Miles King did it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the forensic evidence is very damning. Digital forensic. He didn't leave any... I think he left some shell casings, and then I don't think they found the gun. They might have found the gun. I don't think they ever found the gun. If they did find the gun, it wasn't connected to him. It was a very, very clean crime. The only reason he got caught was because of the illegal search of the cell data. And to launder, that's called evidence laundering, to launder the illegal search, Proctor had the cop at the scene put words in the mouth of the defendant, of the dying victim. That's called evidence laundering. You know where you're going to get to. You see how it's like cheating in school. You know where you're going to get to, but you didn't get there legitimately, and you just build the evidence backwards. Oh, I need probable cause to get that cell data. What will get me the probable cause? Oh, what if the victim, when he was dying, said it was Mizzy Cash? That'll get me a warrant for the cell data and an arrest warrant. And then I'll get the data I know shows him in the area. Bada bing, bada boom. And that's being a dirty cop. That's cheating. Now you might say, yeah, but he cleared a homicide. Okay, but why do we have the Constitution? Bro, I could build you a surveillance network that would solve every crime the second that it happens. I don't want to live in a society like that. I don't want to do it. That's fucking China. That's what the commies do. Is Michael Proctor a commie? I don't know. But that kind of policing belongs in communist China or Russia. Maybe he'd like the KGB style of policing. This is America. You got to play by the rules. You have to follow the rules. We already give them bright line reasoning. Bright line reasoning is a form of very simplified instructions for cops. Like, listen, like, here's the test. Don't screw the test up or you'll screw the whole case up. We make it really easy for them and they still cheat. Now, bright line reasoning is certainly condescending, okay? But the point remains the same. Proctor screwed this case up. And that was unrelated to his texts. And now that the texts have come out, game over. Game over in every sense of the term. I don't know how this case is still... Now, let me add one more compounding factor. Michael Proctor gets 2 ring videos from the scene at the time of the crime and only gives one of them to Lally. And Lally today on the stand had this to say. Now, mind you, I just want you to understand, I don't think anyone would have ever found out about this if not for Michael Proctor being such a virulent bigot and screwing with Karen Reed, who he never should have gone up against. Please. Matt McCabe thought if Karen didn't plea, it would be a situation. Other way around. Clearly. And people with that kind of power don't say it. So anyway, my point is, this case, it's a sad reality. I want you all to know. Do you think that this doesn't happen every day to especially defendants from lower social classes with no money, who the system already hates? Every day. And nobody cares. They scream into the void and they pound their fists on the table. They beg for people to listen. There's no Ted Daniel. Alright? There's no Towel. There's no Christina Rex. I'm putting this on all of us. It's my fault too. Alright? Because it's not glamorous. The defendants are oftentimes people who probably did do terrible things. And that's how the cops get away with it. They pick and choose their battles. You must understand, the only reason anyone knows about what happened to Miles King is because of what Michael Proctor did to Karen Reed and Turtle Boy. And that's a sad reality. So that's why Karen and Aiden have this duty, whether they realize it or not, whether they want to live up to it or not, it's a personal choice. They are speaking for thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who never would have ever been able to tell people about how this happens. Every day, every court, every city, every state. We're just fixing it here. And it's easy to fix it here because we can blame the Democrats. Everybody hates the Democrats. Not the party members or the on-the-ground liberals, the leadership. But it's very hard to fix this in other places. Now, part of it is a cultural shift. Like cops, if cops think everybody hates them, do you think they're going to give a shit about the Constitution? You gotta, like, make them feel rewarded for doing the right thing. You know how guilty I feel about the cop. I think his first name was Kevin. He was a state trooper. He was 2 minutes after his shift. He was going home to his fiance. Okay, he had a family. He was looking forward to a full life. He was young. He got a call that there was a wrong way driver. I think it was on Route 1 or something. He drove his car after his shift ended the wrong way on a highway directly at the driver to make sure the driver couldn't kill people, and he died. He drove his car directly head on into the driver, and they both died. That trooper, it is more likely than not that his last thoughts were, nobody's even going to care that I'm doing this because everyone hates my entire state police department. That I can't live with that. I'm sorry. It's wrong. I can't also at the same time say because there are people willing to do that, we should overlook the bad. We need to just get to a point where police officers, whatever department they're in, feel rewarded for doing the right thing and appreciated and called out for doing the wrong thing. And if we don't do that, we're in a lot of trouble, especially after this. That's the whole lesson from this. Okay? It really is, it metastasizes. Okay? That's the mechanism of action. Corruption touches one person, then another, then another, then another, then another, then everyone's in it together. And that's how you lose the republic, and I won't see it happen. But getting back to this Ring video, so Michael Proctor had 2 pieces of Ring video. Lally finds out today on the stand he was only given 1 of them, and it was edited.
The Ring camera that you introduced at the grand jury in the case against Mr. King, did you understand that to be the full Ring video that police officers generated or seized as a result of this case, right?
Yes.
No one told you they edited it in any way, right?
No.
And if it was edited, you would have introduced the whole thing, right?
Correct.
Okay. And did you ever learn, in the course of your representing the Commonwealth in this case, that what you introduced in front of the grand jury wasn't the entire Ring video?
Did I learn that? No.
Are you just finding out about this for the first time today?
Right now.
Okay. And if I told you that Ring camera had an individual dressed in a green sweatsuit and an individual dressed in a red sweatsuit walking in the area of the crime at the time, would that have been something you'd sent your officers out to investigate?
Yes.
And did you do that in this case, sir?
I sent them out to investigate something I wasn't aware of. No.
Can you think of any reason why a police officer would edit a Ring camera before sending it to the grand jury?
Can I think of a reason? Sure. I mean, things of that nature, but if there's a video that's going to be introduced as an exhibit before the grand jury, I might, if I'm presenting a case, I'm going to introduce the entirety of the video. I might also introduce it as a separate exhibit, a smaller, singular portion of it, but the entire video will be admitted as an exhibit.
And that was your practice back when you indicted Mr. King, right?
Always been the practice.
So you introduce the entire video, and then if you wanted grand jurors to focus on a certain portion of the video, you do a clip, and you introduce that as a separate exhibit, right?
Correct.
In this case, you introduced the Ring video that was given to you. By who? Who gave you the Ring video, remember?
Specifically, no, but my assumption would be true property.
So there you go. So you can see what we're leading up to here, and we'll hear the part of the hearing about bringing Proctor in as well. We can take a listen, but the big takeaway, all right, is that moment. It was 3.5 hours. The Commonwealth attorney, by the way, can we talk about something? The Commonwealth's attorney, I know people, I was doing this in real time, people may not have understood what happened. I don't know who this ADA was, McGee or something. He was talking to Caleb Schillinger after the hearing. This man, I don't know if it was, I think people thought he dropped them. he threw his papers on the ground in the middle of the hearing. I'm not kidding you. And left them there for an extended period of time. And I don't mean like they fell off the lectern. He threw them. Like he just threw them on the ground as if he just expected some person to come around and pick them up. Now, you might be like, well, maybe he just got lost in the moment. No, he left the damn things for like 20 minutes. And then he came back and started standing on them when they were this was like 10 or 20 minutes later. It was like he was reading off them. Now listen, you see how like he has them on the thing, on the side rail, so it looks like maybe they fell? No, they didn't fall. I was watching this. He took them and just threw them on the ground. I was like, alright, okay, alright, we're just... We have just everything is like, nobody cares anymore. That was the moment where I realized it was over at the Norfolk DA's office, when this man threw his papers on the floor in the middle of court and just didn't give a shit. He did not give a shit. He couldn't have cared less. He was just like, screw it, fuck this place. Like, his vibe was like, F this place. He didn't care. His job was to do one thing, which was when Rosemary finished her like examination, to talk until 1 p.m. It didn't matter if he talked. He could have started reading the recipe book for friggin' some type of obscure like South African dish. He probably would have been given a pat on the head. You know what I'm saying? That man asked an hour and 15 minutes of questions. Every question was, so, can you tell me what is the number to this search warrant? Can you, now listen, I need you to take some time here, go very slow. What's the number of the next search warrant? Now, you might notice that this next search warrant doesn't have a bait stamp on it. Can you tell me when the date of it was? Now, would you mind just taking very slowly? I don't want you to go too fast. If you rush, you might miss something. Would you mind, Mr. Lally, taking some time to read the document? We're like all sitting, like 5 minutes go by, and the guy's like, okay, have you read the document? Wally's like, yep. And then the ADA's like, what is the search warrant number? Judge Krupp was like, this is fucking ridiculous. Oh, now you gotta understand, there's only certain people in the room that actually know what, like, there's what they're talking about, and then there's what's actually going on. Oh my god. Let me just tell you, today, okay, alright, listen. There are some times when the vibe in the courtroom is set by other people. Like the judge, or a witness, or one of the broadcasters, or the lawyer, like, or Karen, or Aiden. Like, it's very dependent on the lead up. No. This was a Miles King and Rosemary Scapicchio and Adam Lally hearing, but I was sitting there, and I was like, ah, yes. This is my domain now. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't really want this domain. I'm glad Adam Deitch is responsible for fixing all this. I want to go travel the world now. And then I was like, okay. I'm trying to learn to be like Rosemary, okay? Rosemary's just got this attitude like, yeah, you know, you gotta burn it all down. She didn't say this, I'm paraphrasing her vibe. Yeah, you gotta burn it all down, but you still gotta, like, take your heels off, put your flats on, and go, like, get a coffee afterwards, and, like, you know, sit down. You can't just, you know. So, I gotta find that, you know, burn down corruption / life balance. You know, they don't really teach that in HR departments these days, you know. I spoke to my non-existent rhetorical HR director, and I was like, do we have an appropriate, like, you know, work-life balance? And he asked me what that meant. So, you know, I don't know what to tell you. So anyway, I said I was going to keep it short. I'm not going to keep it like that short, but I don't want to belabor anything. We don't have, listen, I want to actually talk about a few things. One, first of all, we need to figure out, and I will write a message to YouTube. I don't know what happened today with the Lindsay Clancy trial, but apparently multiple channels that were streaming the pool feed got struck. Not on purpose, from what I understand, it was a misfire, not an automatic. It was an automatic misfire. But we can't have pool feeds, okay, going out and then inadvertently or otherwise them getting struck while other channels use them, because in Massachusetts we are only allowed one camera in the courtroom, maybe 2 or 3 if we negotiate, like one still, one web stream, one television camera. If we do it right, by the book, with the forms, with the motions, like checks and balances. Oh, God bless you. Is that Mr. Sweeney? Thanks for the show today. Adam Deitchford, Norfolk County DA. God bless you, Mr. and Mrs. Sweeney. You know, I will say, Mr. and Mrs. Sweeney, I think people really liked that picture of you and Rosemary Scapicchio. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Sweeney, first of all, that's Mr. Sweeney. Have you ever met Mr. Sweeney? Before, I'll go to Mr. Sweeney in 1 second. I just want to say thank you for the super chat. Let me just tell you something very quickly. Number one, we only are allowed one pool feed in Massachusetts, all right? So you can't have a system that strikes channels for using the pool feed, because we must, by rule, use the pool feed. So we need to have some kind of meeting, okay, with Law and Crime and Court TV and YouTube, and we got to tell them, listen, the way we do it here, and it's not any one channel, like one day it might be Grant, one day it might be Court TV, one day it might be WHDH or Channel 5 or Boston 25. The court only lets us have like 1 or 2 cameras. The rule is we push the feed out, other channels are permitted to use it. We don't have a rule in this state, I've seen it in other states, where judges will put in the media order, you cannot copyright the pool feed. We don't have that because no one's ever done it. It's always been a like unwritten gentle towels agreement, okay? Everybody just agrees. That's how we've always operated. And I am, mind you, I am the one who stands to lose here, okay? And that's why I don't care about advocating for this policy, because I'm the one that goes in there and does the hard cam, personally. I don't send a staff member, I do it myself, with a motion, registered per the rules. And I don't want to be able to copyright a court pool feed, because it undermines the point of the work, which is getting it out to the public. That said, unrelated to that, that's Mr. Sweeney. All right? Mr. Sweeney's great. See, he's probably all embarrassed. He's sitting on the stairs. Now, here's the picture I wanted to share. Oh, that's an eagle eye lens. That one's really fun. It's called a fish eye lens. Fish eye lens. That'll be on the final. TSA. Oh, that was Adam Lally. Adam Lally was giving me. He was giving me the stink eye. All right. He was very. That was me, and he was giving me the stink eye. He was all mad. All right. Judge Krupp, I don't know what to call that expression. Like, how did you do this? What are you? It's I've never seen that look from a judge before. It's a look of like, oh God, it's you. Lally's look was like you know, like well played, but also I hate you. Judge Grubb is like, oh my God. He was looking directly at me. And I was like, well, you know, you should talk to the Cannabis Control Commission. Did nobody call Shannon O'Brien? Did nobody in Norfolk County think, you know, maybe we should look into his prior work. Maybe, like, you know, like maybe Kate's, you know, just kind of dumb, and like he actually does, you know, we should just entertain the possibility that he actually does this. You know, we should, you know, I realize it's a lot, okay, but if you actually read the Patreon, bro, it takes like, I don't know, maybe like 2 weeks. You can read like 10 to 12 million words of investigative reporting in 2 weeks if you really put the effort in. All right? You know what I'm saying? So, don't give me that look. You could have figured it out. Yes, and oh, thank you for asking. So, speaking of my book, let's talk about that book. I wrote a new book. First of all, it is doing really well. I found out, so I asked around a little bit, and okay, first of all, I think I might actually be like a prominent figure in Norfolk County, because let me just tell you, it wasn't just Judge. Like, Judge's look was the best one, because it wasn't bad. It was bafflement, which is even better. I like to baffle, okay? I love to confound people's expectations. It's my favorite thing in the entire world to do. You don't understand. But anyway, so I get in there, and I had a lot of people that wanted to talk to me, and then this nice man, I can't tell you what he was doing or who he was working for. It's a professional courtesy thing. So anyway, this nice man comes up to me, and he's like, wow, you seem to know everyone here, and you know a lot about all of this. And I was like, you seem like a nice man. I wanted to pat him on the head and be like, best of luck, young Padawan. See ya. Good luck out there. He was involved in none of this ever. And he was like all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And I was like, oh yeah, you go have a great time. So anyway, multiple people asked about the book. Someone wanted to get a signed copy of it. And then Chief didn't ask about it. Pardon my cough, hold on. Chief didn't ask about it. Chief was like collecting my form or something, and he just like was being chief and just asked how things were going. And all I said was, I wrote a book. And Chief, I don't think Chief, maybe during the trial, but maybe not now. I don't think Chief is on the internet. So Chief was like, what's the title? And I was like, Boss Tweet Days in Norfolk County. He just walked away. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Oh my god. So, the atmosphere in court was weird because Proctor wasn't there, and Judge cut Rosemary off. However, Sergeant Peter Murphy was there. There's Sergeant Peter Murphy walking in with Rosemary, and there's Rosemary's daughter. And then I don't know who the other two people are. Some kind of assistants to Rosemary or students of Rosemary. I don't know. Rosemary just has this cadre of all these high-powered female attorneys that walk around her, and they just kind of look at her like she's a superhero. And then she just does all the. You should see her multitasking in court. She's got she had. Oh my god, I'm just in awe. Now I see why people are in awe, especially the people that work with her. Okay, so she has these fuchsia folder markers, okay? Every fucking one of them is labeled with exactly what the documents she needs. They get spread out, that whole defense table, from one side to the other. Nobody gets any room on the table. It's just Rosemary's very specifically aligned documents. And then when she's doing oral arguments, she has them all aligned so she can just walk over to them. She picks the document up. She's like, I got it in triplicate. She's like, I don't want to give you this copy. This is my highlighted one. She points to her daughter. Give me the unhighlighted one. The daughter hands over the unhighlighted. It's like an efficient machine. I've never seen anything like this before. You must understand. Lawyers. So I've seen all-star legal teams, obviously, in the Karen Reed case. They don't work like that. You're not telling David Yannetti to pass you a piece of paper. Maybe if it's David's witness and he knows where the piece of paper is, but everybody's got their own witness. Everybody has a job, a direct, a cross, everybody has a job, okay? You're not asking them for fucking paper or pen. I've never seen a lawyer, one lawyer, with that many documents on a table, with that efficient of a command of them, and she didn't have any help. She had to tell her other co-counsel, her daughter, and her assistants, like, that document, that one, like, and she's quarterbacking this. She's asking Lally questions, she's talking to the judge about objections, and then she's on her computer simultaneously scrolling, being like, Judge, there's this email I want to talk to you about. Oh my God. Like, listen, yes, I think that is probably what it would be like if I were doing just that. Like, I would hate it, but if my whole life were just criminal court cases, that is what I probably would be like. She was like Dr. Octopus. She needed like 2 extra arms, and her brain was shit. She didn't lose her composure for a second when she lost on the issue of being able to question on Lally on the Proctor stuff. She didn't get mad. She didn't slam the table. She was like, I'll just get Proctor next time. Dude. That's a different kind of lawyer. Let me just tell you. Oh, and that was Tim. Oh, there's Tim and Mr. Sweeney. Tim's with Canton Community TV. This is like a field trip with Towel. Where's there it is, Mr. Sweeney and Mrs. Sweeney. Look at that picture. I don't need to zoom in. Although I could. It would really show off your wonderful smiles. You were just beaming. So what it was my camera won't take a picture when I click the button with autofocus. It'll wait till it's in focus to do the picture. And I wanted to get a picture of Rosemary like walking up to you, but I couldn't. So instead it got your immediate reaction of her and then you seeing her daughter. So I thought it was a really good one. Oh, thank you all very much for your kind regards. I thought, and maybe we do need a day. Actually, what's kind of cool? So I don't want to do it now. I guess I could show you a little bit. So there's something I want to do to relax more often. And I got this system that will allow me to play video games with you on stream, like my video games. So like I put the video game on, all right, and then for like 5 minutes I play the video game, and that's how we relax. Now you might be like, what? Yeah, I didn't know it was possible either. So I have a PS3. I only play PS3, so you're going to be seeing a lot of like PS2 games that I have from back in the day on disc. Some of them, the discs I actually had to make into like disc images because they got so old, but they're mine. I have all of the boxes, I have all the game manuals, and I have a big PS3, which is actually hardware it's actually the PS2 hardware in the PS3, so it runs native resolution PS2 with the original cell shader, so it looks really good, especially like GTA San Andreas and things like that. So, but you're not getting like gaming streams. I'm going to give you 5 minutes from like every now and again. I don't have it ready today, nor do I want to do it right now, but that's going to be our mental decompression. Hello, Kimberly McGuire. I entirely understand, my friend. It is so good to see you. We've been doing a lot of preparation for the Sandra Birchmore Matthew Farwell case. Of course, connected to that, Proctor Gate. We've been talking about that. I was in court today covering the Rosemary Scapicchio, Adam Lally hearing. Now, it could have, I just want to tell you all, if Judge let Rosemary go down that path and ask about what Lally would have done if he had known, today's hearing would have been wild. She was going to play, she had recordings. This was going to be a showpiece hearing for her. She was going to go till 1 o'clock. But he cut her off, so he took away like an hour of her questioning. So now she's going to have to do that. Now, just so you know, the other big takeaway, Rosemary knows Proctor's not going to take the stand. So you know what Rosemary's going to do? She announced in court she's bringing in an expert in, it's not DEI. I looked it up. So, because I was a little worried this was some like out there like leftist. No. It's an expert in like examining when someone uses racist language over time, what does that mean about their decision making regarding people they're racist or bigoted towards? Which is very different than what I initially thought. I thought it was going to be some like very strange, like liberal, like sociological commentary. No. It's applied methodology. It's numerical methodology based on examining patterns of racist and bigoted, I suppose, towards women, like language, and then over time, if like when they have samples of people doing this, does it correlate to racist or bigoted behavior? Now that you can bring in as an expert, and that's what Rosemary's going to do. Now you might say, why? Well, Rosemary told me in the press conference, because she wants all these texts are under protective order. Rosemary is the only one, other than Karen's team, who has released, as far as I know, correct me, and then I think Turtle Boy may have released some, I don't remember. Because Betero may have referenced like something in the motion that gave us a hint. I don't remember. It's a little bit foggy right now, but I believe it started with Karen, obviously, the most vulgar text about Karen. Then it went to Rosemary, okay? Then Bradel was involved. I do remember Bradel and Betero telling me in a press conference that they also were involved in Proctorgate material getting sort of brought to the public's attention. But it's quite fascinating, sort of how it is all culminated with Proctorgate. Because what Rosemary's going to do is she saw the strategy of not calling Proctor and said, well, okay, fine, I'll go find. Now, I can see why this was a minefield, because anybody who does that kind of work is going to be like an ideologue. Nope. She found she said her name in court, so I looked her up. She found a quantitative analyst of sort of racist language. I didn't know this was a thing. It's important, obviously, because some people actually commit hate crimes. I know. We have so much talk about... I don't know how to explain this. We have so much talk about non-existent extremism that we overlook like some actual hate crimes. We do. Just both sides do it. It's bad. And the reality is that is a discipline. You have to be able to track extremist hate. I don't care who it's directed towards. I don't care who's the originating group. You've got to track it. You can't track it with an ideology towards making it look like it's a problem for one group and not another. You can't do that. You have to track it down the middle. And this expert, setting aside the why they're an expert, because remember, you have to be an expert. You can't just be some person who has an opinion. They're an expert in language and racist behavior attached to patterns of language. Therefore, they can bring in all Proctor's messages, even the ones under protective order we haven't heard, through the expert. Completely permitted. Now you might say, why? Rosemary answered that for us too in the press conference. Because Rosemary's entitled to create a record for appeal of what Proctor said that may have been evidence of animus towards her client. Whether or not the judge rules in her favor, or the jury rules in her favor, she's permitted. In fact, it would probably be ineffective assistance of counsel if she did not create that record. So do you understand? That means we're getting all of those messages. The Miles King trial. First of all, I want to make a prediction. I think if Adam Deitch wins, every case involving Michael Proctor on the state level will be dismissed. Why do I think that? Well, because the feds charged Miles King. And that means... No, oh, by the way, let's talk about Miles King and Karen Reed. If you're Karen Reed and you killed John O'Keefe, would you put yourself on the radar of the federal government? No. You want to know why? Because Miles King was a victim of Michael Proctor's racism and bigotry, just as Karen Reed was a victim of Michael Proctor's racism and sexism. But you know the difference? Miles King killed someone and Karen Reed didn't. So Miles King got banged up on federal charges, and Karen Reed is a free woman bringing down the Norfolk DA, sitting at the right hand of Adam Deitch. Yeah, he'll recuse himself. He'll just pick the special prosecutor, just like Morrissey did. Hey, you wrote the rules of the game, right, Mr. Morrissey? Uh-oh. Whoopsie. Yeah. Another thing. We got to talk about something. I want to speak generally. I have no problem with people restreaming court pool feeds. All right. But we got to stop this behavior of, if this is happening, okay, of just streaming pool feeds from the court. We can't be doing that. For example, the other day, and for this hearing, I went through a formal process. Motions, speaking to the clerk, following up on my motion, making sure it got ruled on and put on the docket, etc. The reason I do that is I bind myself to Rule 119. Willfully. I adhere to every rule of the court. No audio before court is called into session. You got to get set up and whatnot. I just filmed the wall. But no audio, no footage, etc. before court comes into session. No broadcasting what happens while the clerks are getting the Zoom set up. Things like that. The reason why that rule exists is because if you aren't gonna respect the basic premise of the system, then you might inadvertently do something that exposes something way more serious by accident. And the courts have the rules they do for a reason. And I just want people to respect them. Get registered under 119. Put in your slip. If the court requires a slip, it's a slip. Do you understand Norfolk requires a motion? So if it requires a motion or an in-person form, do it. Just follow the rules. If you don't want to, broadcast the pool feed. I don't like it. It leads to people, first of all, it's going to get the Zoom feeds taken away. Second of all, it leads to people talking on the Zoom feed over the judge. And it makes me really mad. It happened today. Although that, I think, was more just an echo issue. My point remains the same, though. Please don't do it. It's just a basic respect thing for the courts. And those people work so hard. I don't care how you feel about the judges on any given case. Do you know how hard the court staff works? The clerks, the security officers. They don't, first of all, they are pretty much the only people that everybody likes. Because they're fair and kind to everybody. I saw a court officer today. He was going on his lunch break, right? He's walking down the stairs. He'll remain unnamed. This guy is walking up the court stairs and he doesn't speak English. And he speaks Spanish. And he's on the phone with his mom. And he needs to get into court because his friend has some kind of, proceeding or something. Not him. He's going to support his friend. I don't know if it was civil or criminal. I didn't ask. I didn't care. I wasn't paying. I didn't want to know the details. I'm sitting there waiting for my Uber. Just like, wait. I'm sitting there on the steps. So I'm just watching this happen. The man who doesn't speak any English, right, but wants to support his friend, comes up to the courthouse steps and tries to say to the court officer, like, something in Spanish. The court officer doesn't understand what he's saying. So the mom on the phone in English is like, my son doesn't speak English. He just wants to go support his friend. Can you help him? He doesn't speak English. The court officer, who was just going on lunch, turned around, is like, sure, like happy as a clam to do it. Now, this guy could have been a friend of a civil defendant, a civil plaintiff, a violent defendant, etc. That didn't matter. He was like, come on, let's go. Brought him inside, found someone who spoke Spanish, I'm sure, I didn't follow him in, and helped him get to where he needed to go. and it happens every day. That's just one example. So it's not like the court. Obviously, if you were here the other day watching the stream, I won't even say the name of the person who called Sandra Birchmore on January 20th, 2021. Why? Because there's a federal protective order. Am I bound by it? No. But I respect the spirit of it. I respect Judge Casper's court. And I respect whatever the hell that court knows about that case. And its judgment to do that. And that's why I follow the rules. So, I don't know. It cuts both ways. No copywriting pool feeds. But at the same time, get permission if you want to do them. That's all I want to say. And it's not, it applies equally to Law and Crime, to Channel 5, Channel 7, Channel 25, all of them. All right? It doesn't matter. It applies to all of us. All right? I would say that I don't even want to tell you the process for federal credentials for media. It's outrageous. And you have to basically get approved by the DOJ itself. Alright? I will not, even though it's really hard to get through that process, I will not use my phone in that building unless I get a waiver. One time I got a waiver because it was in a case I was covering and they let all of us in on a waiver, which was fair because it was fair. It was the Tanya Fernandez Anderson case. But the point remains the same. If I'm not given permission, I'm not doing it. And I would hold myself to the same standard. If I don't get approved to tweet from federal court, I will take handwritten notes. I will not disrespect the court. I may do things that the court finds disrespectful, but I won't disrespect its orders or authority. Nope. 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 Never. Miles King, for his part, was asking himself, I think today, if I could read his mind, how did I get myself into this situation? How did I find myself with multiple cameras pointing at me as Rosemary Scapicchio goes to battle with Lally over Michael Proctor? And you know what? Sometimes you just end up as that guy. Frankly, I hope if the first incident didn't cause Miles King to just move differently, hopefully this federal charge does. I don't know him, but if he likes music and whatnot, I hope he gets into that. There's no reason for him to be pulled down by the ugliness that was Michael Proctor. And frankly, we're moving towards a different approach towards narcotics, but not those kind of firearms. So we don't need assault, literally automatic weapons. That man you're looking at on the screen had an arsenal of weapons that would best be described as useful for a paramilitary force operating in the north of Yemen, fighting the Houthis on behalf of Saudi Arabia. I'm not kidding you. Some people with pill presses might have an MP5 now I'm describing this in the context of criminal charges so you can understand he looks like any other guy off the street. He really does. But I want you to understand what he had because it's in the federal indictment. Him and his friends had I'm pretty sure a sniper rifle, an actual Tavor sniper rifle. It was the thing had a barrel on it with a legitimate square sniper tip on it. It was a legitimate military weapon. They had versions of automatic rifles that I didn't know existed. They were teched out. They were all modern tech, completely specced out, completely different than some of them were aerated. The fiber, the carbon fiber was, or the fiber of the barrel. I'm not a gun person. Can you tell? was aerated. I don't even know what I was looking at. They had like 40 of them. And more than a few kilograms of crack cocaine, which is, God only knows how many kilograms of actual cocaine base. So, yeah. This man, I hope, he's probably very talented. You don't get that high up. You've got to have skills to get that high up. But I hope this, like for him, this is not a negative. I hope his life, I hope the feds don't put him in jail for life. I know what happened with Marquise Simmons. He's got to change his life around. He can do music. You want to sell weed? Dude, get a weed license. Hit me up. I will connect you to someone, whatever. That's why we made. Let's go. We're back. But yeah, that's just, I don't know. I couldn't talk to the kid today. I'm not going to talk to him. But he's got to do a federal bid. He did some bad shit. That's why they banged him up on the federal charges, because Deitch is probably going to dismiss everything involving Proctor. So. Now, the federal stuff isn't murder, though. So, it's a lot of narcotics trafficking. But, you know, all said and done, good time, 12 to 20 years. If he can, you know, he doesn't have to flip, but if he can, like, do a, like, substance rehabilitation program, I don't think, it doesn't look like he was using drugs. But he's got, I don't know what to say. Like, I understand this system made it so that the only way to compete was doing stuff like that. But they're going to get you every time. Every time. So we got to fix that. It's a tool of oppression. And it destroys the very communities we're trying to help. Like, you're not selling crack to fucking, you know, the dudes who are like running Epstein's companies and running the real estate and the judges. No, you're selling crack so they can put the lower class in jail, whether you realize it or not. They made crack for that reason. You ever trace the origins of crack cocaine as an academic study? Houston, Texas. You think some random people found out you put baking soda and fucking freebase cocaine together and cook it and it makes crack? No. And then that dude worked with Freeway Rick Ross out in LA. And that's how crack proliferated. It started in Texas and went out to LA. Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not. Try to tell people. Like, the drug game is not, I don't know what to tell you. It's not, it's a very faux form of wealth and power. It doesn't really lead to anything. It's a dead end. It's dangerous. It's not healthy for society. But if you can apply not the violence, but your understanding of economics and human relationships and business to a legal market sector, then you're playing their game. And the difference is you probably won't make, I'm saying to people who came up from that world, you probably won't make enforcement of minor drug offenses to keep the system going a priority. You got to get into power. And that means not being in the drug game. Well, I suppose a lot of people are in power who are in power in the drug game. But if you notice, they sell drugs that they made legal. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's just, it's such a different world. But the insight here, that's a big one. And I don't want this to be lost on people. If Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe, the feds would have got her. She didn't kill John O'Keefe. It's that simple. Miles King killed Marquise Simmons, so they got him. It really does just come down to that. It's the biggest smoking gun. The feds looked into both Miles King and Karen Reed, and only one got charged because only one did something wrong. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Karen did anything wrong. I think she probably feels a little guilty about not agreeing with John to go in. But she might have gotten hurt herself, so, you know, that's tough. She must be very traumatized. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Something's coming, though. I think next week. I think when Deitch wins, there's just... It's going to set off a chain reaction. I just sense he's going to win. You got to vote, though. Some of you are already voting. You got to vote. Everything comes down to next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday? Literally? Ah, how apropos is that? We're at the finish line, folks. There will be... Oh, by the way, tomorrow. Alright, this is why we're doing a short stream tonight. I'm not going past like 7:30. One, I need to rest, and it's been a tough week. Two, tomorrow there will be a FOIA drop. I can already tell because they said before the end of August they are going to drop some. Do you understand? Tomorrow is the last FOIA drop before the election, and they said they're going to finish whatever's left, and they delayed this for 2 weeks. It's tomorrow. Oh yeah. We're at the finish line. We've read every document in the Birchmore case up till now. I just checked Pacer. There was nothing new filed today. Although, of course, now that I say that, I bet something will go up on the docket inevitably. We've read every filing in the O'Keefe and Reed civil cases. We've read every filing in the Turtle Boy criminal cases. There's a Matthew Farwell hearing next Tuesday, in fact, on the day of the election. I will be there. So, I must say, we are heading in a very interesting direction right now. Proctor will not factor into the primary. Alright? He won't. He saved himself today for a number of reasons. And they were going to make sure he didn't testify. They had a plan. He was never, even though he was subpoenaed, they were going to make sure he didn't. Worst comes to worst, he was going to take the fifth. They delayed that, so it will not be a factor. That means we are in the home stretch. It's over. You know, let me tell you a famous story. One of my favorite books is One Brief Shining Moment. I have a lot of favorite books, but I love William Manchester's One Brief Shining Moment. I've listened to it probably 50 times. I don't know. More than I should. Hi, Julie, craziest person on earth. It was great to see you. Oh, the Pats are on tonight, too. That's right. Well, so here's the thing. I go to bed at the latest, unless there's serious stuff I got to cover that is very important. I go to bed at the latest, 6 to 9, because especially if I'm moving around like I am now to different places, I'm up at like 3 in the morning and I'm doing my thing. So, yeah. But, yeah. Someone asked, I think Sergeant Murphy today, Peter Murphy, I'm never going to be able to call him Peter Murphy, I'm sorry. I think he's an honorable man. I don't trust Sean on the Gulf at all, but I vibe checked Sergeant Murphy, alright? He's alright. I only need, 5 seconds, alright? But still, don't trust Sean on the Gulf unless I see documentary evidence, which I'm not even going to believe because of how everything went down, proving otherwise, I am convinced that Sean on the Gulf was a saboteur. Convinced. There's just too much that lines up about where he was and when and who he was involved with. And none of them turned out to be positive. No one he was involved with, except for like random people he would talk to because of his name recognition. And it's hard to parse those people from the people he was originally involved with, but you can kind of figure it out. No one he was involved with came out good for Aiden or Karen. No one. In fact, I think a lot of people, like 6 to 12 months ago, made a choice to turn on that operation. That's just my opinion. I never wanted to get involved. I think they tried to bribe me. Somebody did. Kate Peter tried to give me cash in a parking lot. I was like, I don't want your cash in a parking lot. I don't want your money. I want the truth. I'm sure I've said many lines to people where they're like, does this mother effer think he's in a movie? But no, it's just how I feel. Like, I'll say to them, like, I just want the truth. Like, one time, I told Christina Rex that I wanted to, she was like, so what are you going to do now that you graduated? And I was like, I want to wander the countryside and preach to people for food. And she was like, not for money, for food. And I was like, yeah, for food. She smiled. Okay. I'm bringing things back to a more simple time. Alright, so, with that said, what else did I want to rant about? Was that everything I wanted to rant about today? Oh, the finish line. Yeah, so we're at the finish line. Alright, it's the die is cast. Whatever's going to happen. Oh, William Manchester. So I love William Manchester. And there's this famous story about the Kennedy compound on election night in, the November of 1960? Yeah, November of 1960. You know, I kind of want to, like, find this chapter and read it for you. I just don't have the freaking book, like, offhand. But the story is basically that the Kennedy family is at the big house. At the compound in Hyannis. It's like where the scions of the Kennedy family, like the father and what was his name? Not Honey Fitz, the mayor of Boston. That was the grandfather, but the father of John Kennedy, Joe Kennedy, maybe. He was there, and William Manchester was there, and maybe the children, and then like JFK's kids, and then Jackie, and I'm trying to remember who else, like maybe one or two aides. Maybe Ted Sorensen was there from his Senate days. And it's like, I don't know, 8 o'clock or 7:30 on election night. And they're all like gathered around, like watching, I'm sure, Walter Cronkite or some other election night coverage on from 1960. And Jack kind of like sleepily walks out of the bedroom. And he's like, what are you all doing? And they're like, what are you doing? Don't you want to watch the election results? And he was like, no, I'm going to bed. I've done everything I can. What's going to happen is going to happen, and the votes are going to be what the votes are going to be. I'll wake up in the morning, and I'll see the wires. And he went to bed. So, I don't know, tomorrow night, Saturday night, Sunday night, I'm going to have that moment, I assure you. A lot of people have put a lot of work into this. There has never been a district attorney campaign. All these cases, Miles King, Karen Reed, John O'Keefe, everything you have been working for comes down to Tuesday. All of these cases crash together. And all of the work you've put in all of the different ways you've done so, will be determined on Tuesday. Tomorrow, there's more work to be done with the FOIA. There could be something in there that's huge and has an impact on, even more on Connor. But on the whole, how people are going to vote today is how they're going to vote on Tuesday. The die is cast. Everything I've left, personally, I don't know, I'm sure, I can't speak for other people. A lot of people have done a lot of work. I have left everything on the field to make this happen. I've done everything in my power. I tried to get him name recognition, which I think he has. I tried to get him, I tried to get people politically who would be a problem for him not to be a problem. Mind you, he didn't ask me to do this. I just wanted him to win. I'm petitioning my government for redress of my grievances. I think he can do it. I really see him as James Folk, I think was his name, the DA. Let's read that story one more time. That's what I want to read before bed. Would you indulge me? If you believe in Adam Deitch and you haven't heard this story, you've heard of my book, obviously, if you've been watching this stream. But before I go to bed, this is how I'm going to end our short stream tonight. I want you to listen to this. And if you don't believe in Adam Deitch, you will after this. Watch what is possible when historical forces combine in a way that should not be possible. I'm going to show it to you right now. I just got to close some of these things. Hold on one second. I have a lot of images open, and because of all the images that were open, it will make my computer go all slow. Speaking of Adam Deitch, take a listen to this story and let me know if it reminds you of a certain, a certain incoming district attorney potentially in Norfolk County. And then I'm going to bed.
Tweed Days in St. Louis. October, 19... Tweed Days in St. Louis. October, 1902. St. Louis, the fourth city in size in the United States, is making two announcements to the world. One that it is the worst governed city in the land. The other that it wishes all men to come there, for the World's Fair, and see it. It isn't our worst governed city, Philadelphia is that. But St. Louis is worth examining while we have it inside out. There is a man at work there, one man, working all alone, but he is the circuit, district or state, attorney. And he is doing his duty. That is what thousands of district attorneys and other public officials have promised to do and boasted of doing. This man has a literal sort of mind. He is a thin-lipped, firm-mouthed, dark little man, who never raises his voice, but goes ahead doing, with a smiling eye and a set jaw, the simple thing he said he would do. The politicians and reputable citizens who asked him to run urged him when he declined. When he said that if elected he would have to do his duty, they said, of course. So he ran, they supported him, and he was elected. Now some of these politicians are sentenced to the penitentiary, some are in Mexico. The circuit attorney, finding that his duty was to catch and convict criminals, and that the biggest criminals were some of these same politicians and leading citizens, went after them. It is magnificent, but the politicians declare it isn't politics. The corruption of St. Louis came from the top. The best citizens, the merchants and big financiers, used to rule the town, and they ruled it well. They set out to outstrip Chicago. The commercial and industrial war between these two cities was at one time a picturesque and dramatic spectacle such as is witnessed only in our country. Businessmen were not mere merchants and the politicians were not mere grafters. The two kinds of citizens got together and wielded the power of banks, railroads, factories, the prestige of the city, and the spirit of its citizens to gain business and population. And it was a close race. Chicago, having the start, always led, but St. Louis had pluck, intelligence, and tremendous energy. It pressed Chicago hard. It excelled in a sense of civic beauty and good government, and there are those who think yet it might have one. But a change occurred. Public spirit became private spirit, public enterprise became private greed. Along about 1890, public franchises and privileges were sought, not only for legitimate profit and common convenience, but for loot. Taking but slight and always selfish interest in the public councils, the big men misused politics. The riffraff, catching the smell of corruption, rushed into the municipal assembly, drove out the remaining respectable men, and sold the city, its streets, its wharves, its markets, and all that it had, to the now greedy businessmen and bribers. In other words, when the leading men began to devour their own city, the herd rushed into the trough and fed also. So gradually has this occurred that these same citizens hardly realize it. Go to St. Louis and you will find the habit of civic pride in them. They still boast. The visitor is told of the wealth of the residents, of the financial strength of the banks, and of the growing importance of the industries, yet he sees poorly paved, refuse-burdened streets, and dusty or mud-covered alleys. He passes a ramshackle fire trap crowded with the sick, and learns that it is the city hospital. He enters the forecourts, and his nostrils are greeted by the odor of formaldehyde used as a disinfectant, and insect powder spread to destroy vermin. He calls at the new city hall, and finds half the entrance boarded with pine planks to cover up the interior. Finally, he turns a tap in the hotel, to see liquid mud flow into wash basin or bathtub. The St. Louis Charter vests legislative power of great scope in a municipal assembly, which is composed of a council and a House of Delegates. Here is a description of the latter by one of Mr. Folk's grand juries. We have had before us many of those who have been, and most of those who are now, members of the House of Delegates. We found a number of these utterly illiterate and lacking in ordinary intelligence, unable to give a better reason for favoring or opposing a measure than a desire to act with the majority. In some, no trace of mentality or morality could be found. In others, a low order of training appeared, united with base cunning, groveling instincts, and sordid desires. Unqualified to respond to the ordinary requirements of life, they are utterly incapable of comprehending the significance of an ordinance, and are incapacitated, both by nature and training, to be the makers of laws. The choosing of such men to be legislators makes a travesty of justice, sets a premium on incompetency, and deliberately poisons the very source of the law. These creatures were well organized. They had a combine, a legislative institution, which the grand jury described as follows. Our investigation, covering more or less fully a period of 10 years, shows that, with few exceptions, no ordinance has been passed wherein valuable privileges or franchises are granted until those interested have paid the legislators the money demanded for action in the particular case. Combines in both branches of the municipal assembly are formed by members sufficient in number to control legislation. To one member of this combine is delegated the authority to act for the combine, and to receive and to distribute to each member the money agreed upon as the price of his vote in support of, or opposition to, a pending measure. So long has this practice existed that such members have come to regard the receipt of money for action on pending measures as a legitimate perquisite of a legislator. One legislator consulted a lawyer with the intention of suing a firm to recover an unpaid balance on a fee for the grant of a switchway. Such difficulties rarely occurred, however. In order to ensure a regular and indisputable revenue, the combine of each house drew up a schedule of bribery prices for all possible sorts of grants. Just such a list as a commercial traveler takes out on the road with him. There was a price for a grain elevator, a price for a short switch. Side tracks were charged for by the linear foot, but at rates which varied according to the nature of the ground taken. A street improvement cost so much. Wharf space was classified and precisely rated. As there was a scale for favorable legislation, so there was one for defeating bills. It made a difference in the price if there was opposition, and it made a difference whether the privilege asked was legitimate or not. But nothing was passed free of charge. Many of the legislators were saloon keepers. It was in St. Louis that a practical joker nearly emptied the House of Delegates by tipping a boy to rush into a session and call out, "Mister, your saloon is on fire." But even the saloon keepers of a neighborhood had to pay to keep in their inconvenient locality a market which public interest would have moved. From the assembly, bribery spread into other departments. Men empowered to issue peddlers' licenses and permits to citizens who wished to erect awnings or use a portion of the sidewalk for storage purposes charged an amount in excess of the prices stipulated by law and pocketed the difference. The city's money was loaned at interest, and the interest was converted into private bank accounts. City carriages were used by the wives and children of city officials. Supplies for public institutions found their way to private tables. One itemized account of food furnished the poorhouse included California jellies, imported cheeses, and French wines. A member of the assembly caused the incorporation of a grocery company, with his sons and daughters the ostensible stockholders, and succeeded in having his bid for city supplies accepted, although the figures were in excess of his competitors. In return for the favor thus shown, he endorsed a measure to award the contract for city printing to another member. And these two voted aye on a bill granting to a third the exclusive right to furnish city dispensaries with drugs. Men ran into debt to the extent of thousands of dollars for the sake of election to either branch of the assembly. One night, on a streetcar going to the city hall, a new member remarked that the nickel he handed the conductor was his last. The next day he deposited $5,000 in a savings bank. A member of the House of Delegates admitted to the grand jury that his dividends from the combine netted $25,000 in 1 year. A councilman stated that he was paid $50,000 for his vote on a single measure. Bribery was a joke. A newspaper reporter overheard this conversation one evening in the corridor of the city hall. "Ah there, my boodler," said Mr. Delegate. "Stay there, my grafter," replied Mr. Councilman. "Can you lend me $100 for a day or two?" "Not at present. But I can spare it if the Z bill goes through tonight." "Meet me at F.S. later." "All right, my jailbird, I'll be there." The blackest years were 1898, 1899, and 1900. Foreign corporations came into the city to share in its despoliation, and home industries were driven out by blackmail. Franchises worth millions were granted without 1 cent of cash to the city, and with provision for only the smallest future payment. Several companies which refused to pay blackmail had to leave. Citizens were robbed more and more boldly. Payrolls were padded with the names of non-existent persons. Work on public improvements was neglected, while money for them went to the boodlers. Some of the newspapers protested, disinterested citizens were alarmed, and the shrewder men gave warnings, but none dared make an effective stand. Behind the corruptionists were men of wealth and social standing, who, because of special privileges granted them, felt bound to support and defend the looters. Independent victims of the far-reaching conspiracy submitted in silence, through fear of injury to their business. Men whose integrity was never questioned, who held high positions of trust, who were church members and teachers of Bible classes, contributed to the support of the dynasty, became blackmailers, in fact. And their excuse was that others did the same, and that if they proved the exception it would work their ruin. The system became loose through license and plenty till it was as wild and weak as that of Tweed in New York. Then the unexpected happened, an accident. There was no uprising of the people, but they were restive, and the Democratic Party leaders, thinking to gain some independent votes, decided to raise the cry, reform, and put up a ticket of candidates different enough from the usual offerings of political parties to give color to their platform. These leaders were not in earnest. There was little difference between the two parties in the city, but the rascals that were in had been getting the greater share of the spoils, and the outs wanted more than was given to them. Boodle was not the issue, no exposures were made or threatened, and the bosses expected to control their men if elected. Simply as part of the game, the Democrats raised the slogan, reform, and no more Ziegenhainism. Mayor Ziegenhain, called Uncle Henry, was a good fellow, one of the boys, and though it was during his administration that the city grew ripe and went to rot, his opponents talked only of incompetence and neglect, and repeated such stories as that of his famous reply to some citizens who complained because certain street lights were put out. "You have the moon yet, ain't it?" When somebody mentioned Joseph W. Folk for circuit attorney, the leaders were ready to accept him. They didn't know much about him. He was a young man from Tennessee, had been president of the Jefferson Club, and arbitrated the railroad strike of 1898. But Folk did not want the place. He was a civil lawyer, had had no practice at the criminal bar, cared little about it, and a lucrative business as counsel for corporations was interesting him. He rejected the invitation. The committee called again and again, urging his duty to his party, and the city, etc. "Very well," he said, "at last, I will accept the nomination, but if elected I will do my duty. There must be no attempt to influence my actions when I am called upon to punish lawbreakers." The committeemen took such statements as the conventional platitudes of candidates. They nominated him, the Democratic ticket was elected, and Folk became circuit attorney for the 8th Missouri District. 3 weeks after taking the oath of office his campaign pledges were put to the test. A number of arrests had been made in connection with the recent election, and charges of illegal registration were preferred against men of both parties. Mr. Folk took them up like routine cases of ordinary crime. Political bosses rushed to the rescue. Mr. Folk was reminded of his duty to his party, and told that he was expected to construe the law in such a manner that repeaters and other election criminals who had hoisted democracy's flag and helped elect him might be either discharged or receive the minimum punishment. The nature of the young lawyer's reply can best be inferred from the words of that veteran political leader, Colonel Ed Butler, who, after a visit to Mr. Folk, wrathfully exclaimed, D.N. Joe. He thinks he's the whole thing as circuit attorney. The election cases were passed through the courts with astonishing rapidity. No more mercy was shown Democrats than Republicans, and before winter came a number of ward heelers and old-time party workers were behind the bars in Jefferson City. He next turned his attention to grafters and straw bondsmen with whom the courts were infested, and several of these leeches are in the penitentiary today. The business was broken up because of his activity. But Mr. Folk had made little more than the beginning. One afternoon, late in January, 1903, a newspaper reporter, known as Red Galvin, called Mr. Folk's attention to a 10-line newspaper item to the effect that a large sum of money had been placed in a bank for the purpose of bribing certain assemblymen to secure the passage of a street railroad ordinance. No names were mentioned, but Mr. Galvin surmised that the bill referred to was one introduced on behalf of the Suburban Railway Company. An hour later, Mr. Folk sent the names of nearly 100 persons to the sheriff, with instructions to subpoena them before the grand jury at once. The list included councilmen, members of the House of Delegates, officers and directors of the Suburban Railway, bank presidents and cashiers. In 3 days the investigation was being pushed with vigor, but St. Louis was laughing at the huge joke. Such things had been attempted before. The men who had been ordered to appear before the grand jury jested as they chatted in the anterooms, and newspaper accounts of these preliminary examinations were written in the spirit of burlesque. It has developed since that Circuit Attorney Folk knew nothing, and was not able to learn much more during the first few days. But he says he saw here and there puffs of smoke and he determined to find the fire. It was not an easy job. The first break into such a system is always difficult. Mr. Folk began with nothing but courage and a strong personal conviction. He caused peremptory summons to be issued, for the immediate attendance in the grand jury room of Charles H. Turner, president of the Suburban Railway, and Philip Stock, a representative of Brewer's interests, who, he had reason to believe, was the legislative agent in this deal. Gentlemen, said Mr. Folk, I have secured sufficient evidence to warrant the return of indictments against you for bribery. And I shall prosecute you to the full extent of the law and send you to the penitentiary unless you tell to this grand jury the complete history of the corruptionist methods employed by you to secure the passage of Ordinance No. 44. I shall give you 3 days to consider the matter. At the end of that time, if you have not returned here and given us the information demanded, warrants will be issued for your arrest. They looked at the audacious young prosecutor and left the Four Courts building without uttering a word. He waited. 2 days later, ex-Lieutenant Governor Charles P. Johnson, the veteran criminal lawyer, called and said that his client, Mr. Stock, was in such poor health that he would be unable to appear before the grand jury. I am truly sorry that Mr. Stock is ill, replied Mr. Folk, for his presence here is imperative, and if he fails to appear he will be arrested before sundown. That evening a conference was held in Governor Johnson's office, and the next day this story was told in the grand jury room by Charles H. Turner, millionaire president of the Suburban Railway, and corroborated by Philip Stock. Man about town and a good fellow, the Suburban, anxious to sell out at a large profit to its only competitor, the St. Louis Transit Company, caused to be drafted the measure known as House Bill No. 44. So sweeping were its grants that Mr. Turner, who planned and executed the document, told the directors in his confidence that its enactment into law would enhance the value of the property from $3 to $6 million. The bill introduced, Mr. Turner visited Colonel Butler, who had long been known as a legislative agent, and asked his price for securing the passage of the measure. $145,000 will be my fee, was the reply. The railway president demurred. He would think the matter over, he said, and he hired a cheaper man, Mr. Stock. Stock conferred with the representative of the Combine in the House of Delegates and reported that $75,000 would be necessary in this branch of the Assembly. Mr. Turner presented a note endorsed by 2 of the directors whom he could trust, and secured a loan from the German-American Savings Bank. Bribe funds in pocket, the legislative agent telephoned John Murrell, at that time a representative of the House Combine, to meet him in the office of the Lincoln Trust Company. There the two rented a safe deposit box. Mr. Stock placed in the drawer the roll of $75,000, and each subscribed to an agreement that the box should not be opened unless both were present. Of course, the conditions spread upon the bank's daybook made no reference to the purpose for which this fund had been deposited. But an agreement entered into by Messrs. Stock and Murrell was to the effect that the $75,000 should be given Mr. Murrell as soon as the bill became an ordinance, and by him distributed to the members of the Combine. Stock turned to the council, and upon his report a further sum of $60,000 was secured. These bills were placed in a safe deposit box of the Mississippi Valley Trust Company, and the man who held the key as representative of the council Combine was Charles H. Kratz. All seemed well, but a few weeks after placing these funds in escrow, Mr. Stock reported to his employer that there was an unexpected hitch due to the action of Emil Meisenberg, who, as a member of the Council Committee on Railroads, was holding up the report on the bill. Mr. Stock said that Mr. Meisenberg held some worthless shares in a defunct corporation and wanted Mr. Stock to purchase this paper at its par value of $9,000. Mr. Turner gave Mr. Stock the money with which to buy the shares. Thus, the passage of House Bill 44 promised to cost the Suburban Railway Company $144,000, only $1,000 less than that originally named by the political boss to whom Mr. Turner had first applied. The bill, however, passed both houses of the Assembly. The sworn servants of the city had done their work and held out their hands for the bribe money. Then came a court mandate which prevented the Suburban Railway Company from reaping the benefit of the vote buying, and Charles H. Turner, angered at the check, issued orders that the money in safe deposit boxes should not be touched. War was declared between bribe givers and bribe takers, and the latter resorted to tactics which they hoped would frighten the suburban people into submission, such as making enough of the story public to cause rumors of impending prosecution. It was that first item which Mr. Folk saw and acted upon. When Messrs. Turner and Stock unfolded in the grand jury room the details of their bribery plot, Circuit Attorney Folk found himself in possession of verbal evidence of a great crime. He needed as material exhibits the two large sums of money in safe deposit vaults of two of the largest banking institutions of the West. Had this money been withdrawn? Could he get it if it was there? Lockboxes had always been considered sacred and beyond the power of the law to open. "I've always held," said Mr. Folk, "that the fact that a thing never had been done was no reason for thinking it couldn't be done." He decided in this case that the magnitude of the interests involved warranted unusual action. So he selected a committee of grand jurors and visited one of the banks. He told the president, a personal friend, the facts that had come into his possession, and asked permission to search for the fund. "Impossible," was the reply. "Our rules deny anyone the right." Said Mr. Folk, "a crime has been committed, and you hold concealed the principal evidence thereto. In the name of the state of Missouri, I demand that you cause the box to be opened. If you refuse, I shall cause a warrant to be issued, charging you as an accessory." For a minute not a word was spoken by anyone in the room. Then the banker said in almost inaudible tones, "Give me a little time, gentlemen. I must consult with our legal advisor before taking such a step." "We will wait 10 minutes, said the circuit attorney. "By that time we must have access to the vault or a warrant will be applied for." At the expiration of that time a solemn procession wended its way from the president's office to the vaults in the sub-cellar, the president, the cashier, and the corporation's lawyer, the grand jurors, and the circuit attorney. All bent eagerly forward as the key was inserted in the lock. The iron drawer yielded, and a roll of something wrapped in brown paper was brought to light. The circuit attorney removed the rubber bands, and national banknotes of large denomination spread out flat before them. The money was counted, and the sum was $75,000. The Boodle Fund was returned to its repository. Officers of the bank were told they would be held responsible for it until the courts could act. The investigators visited the other financial institution. They met with more resistance there. The threat to procure a warrant had no effect until Mr. Folk left the building and set off in the direction of the four courts. Then a messenger called him back, and the second box was opened. In this was found $60,000. The chain of evidence was complete. From that moment events moved rapidly. Charles Kratz and John K. Murrell, alleged representatives of council and House combines, were arrested on bench warrants and placed under heavy bonds. Kratz was brought into court from a meeting at which plans were being formed for his election to the National Congress. Murrell was taken from his undertaking establishment. Emil Meisenberg, millionaire broker, was seated in his office when a sheriff's deputy entered and read a document that charged him with bribery. The summons reached Henry Nicolaus while he was seated at his desk, and the wealthy brewer was compelled to send for a bondsman to avoid passing a night in jail. The cable flashed the news to Cairo, Egypt, that Ellis Wainwright, many times a millionaire, proprietor of the St. Louis brewery that bears this name, had been indicted. Julius Lehman, one of the members of the House of Delegates, who had joked while waiting in the grand jury's anteroom, had his laughter cut short by the hand of a deputy sheriff on his shoulder and the words, "You are charged with perjury." He was joined at the bar of the criminal court by Harry Faulkner, another jolly good fellow. Consternation spread among the Boodle gang. Some of the men took night trains for other states and foreign countries. The majority remained and counseled together. Within 24 hours after the first indictments were returned, a meeting of bribe givers and bribe takers was held in South St. Louis. The total wealth of those in attendance was $30 million, and their combined political influence sufficient to carry any municipal election under normal conditions. This great power was aligned in opposition to one man, who still was alone. It was not until many indictments had been returned that a citizens' committee was formed to furnish funds, and even then most of the contributors concealed their identity. Mr. James L. Blair, the treasurer, testified in court that they were afraid to be known lest it ruin their business. At the meeting of corruptionists, 3 courses were decided upon. Political leaders were to work on the circuit attorney by promise of future reward, or by threats. Detectives were to ferret out of the young lawyer's past anything that could be used against him. Witnesses would be sent out of town and provided with money to remain away until the adjournment of the grand jury. Mr. Folk had once felt the pressure, and it was of a character to startle one. Statesmen, lawyers, merchants, clubmen, churchmen, in fact, men prominent in all walks of life, visited him at his office and at his home, and urged that he cease such activity against his fellow townspeople. Political preferment was promised if he would yield, a political grave if he persisted. Threatening letters came, warning him of plots to murder, to disfigure, and to blackguard. Word came from Tennessee that detectives were investigating every act of his life. Mr. Folk told the politicians that he was not seeking political favors, and not looking forward to another office. The others he defied. Meantime he probed the deeper into the municipal sore. With his first successes for prestige and aided by the panic among the boodlers, he soon had them suspicious of one another, exchanging charges of betrayal, and ready to squeal or run at the slightest sign of danger. One member of the House of Delegates became so frightened while under the inquisitorial crossfire that he was seized with a nervous chill. His false teeth fell to the floor. And the rattle so increased his alarm that he rushed from the room without stopping to pick up his teeth, and boarded the next train. It was not long before Mr. Folk had dug up the intimate history of 10 years of corruption, especially of the business of the North and South and the Central Traction franchise grants. The last named being even more iniquitous than the suburban. Early in 1898, Promoter rented a bridal suite at the Planters Hotel, and having stocked the rooms with wines, liquors, and cigars until they resembled the candidates' headquarters during a convention. Sought introduction to members of the assembly and to such political bosses as had influence with the city fathers. 2 weeks after his arrival, the Central Traction Bill was introduced, by request, in the council. The measure was a blanket franchise, granting rights of way which had not been given to old established companies, and permitting the beneficiaries to parallel any track in the city. It passed both houses despite the protests of every newspaper in the city, save one, and was vetoed by the mayor. The cost to the promoter was $145,000. Preparations were made to pass the bill over the executive's veto. The bridal suite was restocked, larger sums of money were placed on deposit in the banks, and the services of 3 legislative agents were engaged. Evidence now in the possession of the St. Louis courts tells in detail the disposition of $250,000 of bribe money. Sworn statements prove that $75,000 was spent in the House of Delegates. The remainder of the $250,000 was distributed in the council, whose members, though few in number, appraised their honor at a higher figure on account of their higher positions in the business and social world. Finally, but one vote was needed to complete the necessary 2/3 in the upper chamber. To secure this, a councilman of reputed integrity was paid $50,000 in consideration that he vote aye when the ordinance should come up for final passage. But the promoter did not dare risk all upon the vote of one man, and he made this novel proposition to another honored member, who accepted it. You will vote on roll call after Mr. I will place $45,000 in the hands of your son, which amount will become yours, if you have to vote for the measure because of Mr. S not keeping his promise. But if he stands out for it, you can vote against it, and the money shall revert to me. On the evening when the bill was read for final passage, the city hall was crowded with ward heelers and lesser politicians. These men had been engaged by the promoter, at $5 and $10 a head, to cheer on the boodling assemblyman. The bill passed the House with a rush, and all crowded into the council chamber. While the roll was being called, the silence was profound, for all knew that some men in the chamber, whose reputations had been free from blemish, were under promise and pay to part with honor that night. When the clerk was 2/3 down the list, those who had kept count knew that but one vote was needed. One more name was called. The man addressed turned red, then white, and after a moment's hesitation he whispered, "Aye." The silence was so death-like that his vote was heard throughout the room, and those near enough heard also the sigh of relief that escaped from the member who could now vote no and save his reputation. The Central Franchise Bill was a law, passed over the mayor's veto. The promoter had expended nearly $300,000 in securing the legislation, but within a week he sold his rights of way to Eastern capitalists for $1,250,000. The United Railways Company was formed, and without owning an inch of steel rail, or a plank in a car, was able to compel every street railroad in St. Louis, with the exception of the Suburban, to part with stock and right of way and agree to a merger. Out of this grew the St. Louis Transit Company of today. Several incidents followed this legislative session. After the assembly had adjourned, a promoter entertained the $50,000 councilman at a downtown restaurant. During the supper, the host remarked to his guest, "I wish you would lend me that $50,000 until tomorrow. There are some of the boys outside whom I haven't paid." The money changed hands. The next day, having waited in vain for the promoter, Mr. Councilman armed himself with a revolver and began a search of the hotels. The hunt in St. Louis proved fruitless, but the irate legislator kept on the trail until he came face to face with the lobbyist in the corridor of the Waldorf Astoria. The New Yorker, seeing the danger, seized the St. Louisan by the arm and said soothingly, there, don't take on so. I was called away suddenly. Come to supper with me. I will give you the money." The invitation was accepted, and champagne soon was flowing. When the man from the West had become sufficiently maudlin, the promoter passed over to him a letter, which he had dictated to a typewriter while away from the table for a few minutes. The statement denied all knowledge of bribery. "You sign that and I will pay you $5,000. Refuse, and you don't get a cent," said the promoter. The St. Louisan returned home carrying the $5,000, and that was all. Meanwhile, the promoter had not fared so well with other spoilsmen. By the terms of the anti-legislation agreement referred to above, the son of one councilman was pledged to return $45,000 if his father was saved the necessity of voting for the bill. The next day, the New Yorker sought out this young man and asked for the money. "I am not going to give it to you," was the cool rejoinder. "My mamma says that it is bribe money and that it would be wrong to give it to either you or father, so I shall keep it myself." And he did. When summoned before the grand jury, this young man asked to be relieved from answering questions. "I am afraid I might commit perjury," he said. He was advised to tell the truth and there will be no risk. "It would be all right," said the son, "if Mr. Folk would tell me what the other fellows have testified to." "Please have him do that." 2 indictments were found as the result of this central traction bill, and bench warrants were served on Robert M. Snyder and George J. Kobush. The state charged the former with being one of the promoters of the bill, the definite allegation being bribery. Mr. Kobush, who is president of a street car manufacturing company, was charged with perjury. The first case tried was that of Emil Maisenberg, the millionaire who compelled the suburban people to purchase his worthless stock. He was defended by 3 attorneys of high repute in criminal jurisprudence, but the young circuit attorney proved equal to the emergency, and a conviction was secured. 3 years in the penitentiary was the sentence. Charles Kratz, the congressional candidate, forfeited $40,000 by flight, and John K. Murrell also disappeared. Mr. Folk traced Murrell to Mexico, caused his arrest in Guadalajara, negotiated with the authorities for his surrender, and when this failed, arranged for his return home to confess, and his evidence brought about the indictment, on September 8, of 18 members of the municipal legislature. The second case was that of Julius Lehman. 2 years at hard labor was the sentence, and the man who had led the jokers in the grand jury anteroom would have fallen when he heard it, had not a friend been standing near. Besides the convictions of these and other men of good standing in the community, and the flight of many more, partnerships were dissolved, companies had to be reorganized, business houses were closed because their proprietors were absent, but Mr. Folk, deterred as little by success as by failure, moved right on. He was not elated, he was not sorrowful. The man proceeded with his work quickly, surely, smilingly, without fear or pity. The terror spread, and the rout was complete. When another grand jury was sworn and proceeded to take testimony, there were scores of men who threw up their hands and, crying, "Mea culpa," begged to be permitted to tell all they knew and not be prosecuted. The inquiry broadened. The son of a former mayor was indicted for misconduct in office while serving as his father's private secretary, and the grand jury recommended that the ex-mayor be sued in the civil courts to recover interests on public money which he had placed in his own pocket. A true bill fell on a former city register, and more assemblymen were arrested, charged with making illegal contracts with the city. At last the axe struck upon the trunk of the greatest oak of the forest. Colonel Butler, the boss who has controlled elections in St. Louis for many years, the millionaire who had risen from bellows boy in a blacksmith shop to be the maker and guide of the governors of Missouri. One of the men who helped nominate and elect Folk, he also was indicted on 2 counts charging attempted bribery. That Butler has controlled legislation in St. Louis had long been known. It was generally understood that he owned assemblymen before they ever took the oath of office, and that he did not have to pay for votes. And yet open bribery was the allegation now. 2 members of the Board of Health stood ready to swear that he offered them $2,500 for their approval of a garbage contract. Pitiful. Yes, but typical. Other cities are today in the same condition as St. Louis before Mr. Folk was invited in to see its rottenness. Chicago is cleaning itself up just now, so is Minneapolis, and Pittsburgh recently had a bribery scandal. Boston is at peace, Cincinnati and St. Paul are satisfied, while Philadelphia is happy with the worst government in the world. As for the small towns and the villages, many of these are busy as bees at the loot. St. Louis, indeed, in its disgrace, has a great advantage. It was exposed late, it has not been reformed and caught again and again, until its citizens are reconciled to corruption. But, best of all, the man who has turned St. Louis inside out, turned it, as it were, upside down, too. In all cities, the better classes, the businessmen, are the sources of corruption, but they are so rarely pursued and caught that we do not fully realize whence the trouble comes. Thus most cities blame the politicians and the ignorant and vicious poor. Mr. Folk has shown St. Louis that its bankers, brokers, corporation officers, its businessmen are the sources of evil, so that from the start it will know the municipal problem in its true light. With a tradition for public spirit, it may drop Butler and its runaway bankers, brokers, and brewers, and pushing aside the scruples of the hundreds of men down in Blue Book, and Red Book, and Church Register, who are lying hidden behind the statutes of limitations, the city may restore good government. Otherwise the exposures by Mr. Folk will result only in the perfection of the corrupt system. For the corrupt can learn a lesson when the good citizens cannot. The Tweed regime in New York taught Tammany to organize its boodle business. The police exposure taught it to improve its method of collecting blackmail. And both now are almost perfect and safe. The rascals of St. Louis will learn in like manner. They will concentrate the control of their bribery system, excluding from the profit sharing the great mass of weak rascals, and carrying on the business as a business in the interest of a trustworthy few. District Attorney Jerome cannot catch the Tammany men, and Circuit Attorney Folk will not be able another time to break the St. Louis ring. This is St. Louis' one great chance. But, for the rest of us, it does not matter about St. Louis any more than it matters about Colonel Butler et al. The point is, that what went on in St. Louis is going on in most of our cities, towns, and villages. The problem of municipal government in America has not been solved. The people may be tired of it, but they cannot give it up, not yet. Introduction, and some conclusions. The Shame of Minneapolis.
What a great...
Copyright 1904 by McClure, Phillips and Company.
It's actually in
This
the public
work is
domain.
in the public domain in the United
Yes, it is.
States because it was published in 1904, before the cutoff of January 1st, 1929.
Yep.
It was
So-
adapted by the Observatory from a version
Thank you.
produced by Wikisource contributors.
Thank you.
The
That was
longest
a-
living author of this work died in 1936.
Thank you. Yes, I'm well aware. It's actually in the public domain in like 100 and something countries. But the point is, that was a really good article. So if you were paying attention, God bless you, extra bonus points. Now I want to read one more before bed, because I'm staying up till 8, then I'm going to bed. We're going to listen to New York, Good Government to the Test. Now, I believe this was written by, let me just make sure it's the same author. Lincoln Steffens, because I think it was the Shame of the City series. Lincoln Steffens. Yep. Alright, it is another chapter in the Shame of the Cities. So, good job, Aaron. Extra 70 trillion bonus points for taking notes. Now, I've been waiting to read this article, and I don't think we're going to have time tomorrow. I was thinking about it. I'm going to be busy with the FOIA, and I'm not going to sit and read an article about New York in 1903. I love doing that, okay? But we can't do that when when I have to analyze documents. So this might be our one time to do this. Let's go. I present to you Lincoln Steffens' article about Boss Tweed in New York as part of the Shame in the City series. This will be on the final. All right. This is called New York, Good Government to the Test.
New York, Good Government to the Test. November 1903. Just about the
Hi,
time this
Ann.
article will appear, Greater New York will be holding a local election on what has come to be a national question, good government. No doubt there will be other issues. At this writing, September 15th, the candidates were not named nor the platforms written, but the regular politicians hate the main issue. And they have a pretty trick of confusing the honest mind and splitting the honest vote by raising local issues, which would settle themselves under prolonged honest government. So, too, there will probably be some talk about the effect this election might have upon the next presidential election, another clever fraud which seldom fails to work to the advantage of rings and grafters, and to the humiliation and despair of good citizenship. We have nothing to do with these deceptions. They may count in New York, they may determine the result, but let them. They are common moves in the corruptionists' game, and, therefore, fair tests of citizenship, for honesty is not the sole qualification for an honest voter. Intelligence has to play a part, too. And a little intelligence would defeat all such tricks. Anyhow, they cannot disturb us. I am writing too far ahead, and my readers, for the most part, will be reading too far away to know or care anything about them. We can grasp firmly the essential issues involved and then watch with equanimity the returns for the answer, plain yes or no, which New York will give to the only questions that concern us all. Do we Americans really want good government? Do we know it when we see it? Are we capable of that sustained good citizenship which alone can make democracy a success? Or, to save our pride, one other, is the New York way the right road to permanent reform? For New York has good government, or, to be more precise, it has a good administration. It is not a question there of turning the rascals out and putting the honest men into their places. The honest men are in, and this election is to decide whether they are to be kept in, which is a very different matter. Any people is capable of rising in wrath to overthrow bad rulers. Philadelphia has done that in its day. New York has done it several times. With fresh and present outrages to avenge, particular villains to punish, and the mob sense of common anger to excite, it is an emotional gratification to go out with the crowd and smash something. This is nothing but revolt. And even monarchies have uprisings to the credit of their subjects. But revolt is not reform, and one revolutionary administration is not good government. That we free Americans are capable of such assertions of our sovereign power, we have proven. Our lynchers are demonstrating it every day. That we can go forth singly also, and, without passion, with nothing but mild approval and dull duty to impel us, vote intelligently to sustain a fairly good municipal government, remains to be shown. And that is what New York has the chance to show. New York, the leading exponent of the great American anti-bad government movement for good government. According to this, the standard course of municipal reform, the politicians are permitted to organize a party on national lines, take over the government, corrupt and deceive the people, and run things for the private profit of the boss and his ring, till the corruption becomes rampant and a scandal. Then the reformers combine the opposition, the corrupt and unsatisfied minority, the disgruntled groups of the majority, the reform organizations. They nominate a mixed ticket, headed by good businessman, for mayor. Make a hot campaign against the government with "Stop Thief" for the cry, and make a clean sweep. Usually, this affects only the disciplining of the reckless grafters and the improvement of the graft system of corrupt government. The good mayor turns out to be weak or foolish or not so good. The politicians come it over him, as they did over the business mayors who followed the gas ring revolt in Philadelphia. Or the people become disgusted as they did with Mayor Strong, who was carried into office by the anti-Tammany rebellion in New York after the Lexer exposures. Philadelphia gave up after its disappointment, and that is what most cities do. The repeated failures of revolutionary reform to accomplish more than the strengthening of the machine have so discredited this method that wide-awake reformers in several cities, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Minneapolis, and others, are following the lead of Chicago. The Chicago plan does not depend for success upon any one man or any 1 year's work, nor upon excitement or any sort of bad government. The reformers there have no ward organizations, no machine at all. Their appeal is solely to the intelligence of the voter, and their power rests upon that. This is democratic and political, not bourgeois and business reform, and it is interesting to note that whereas reformers elsewhere are forever seeking to concentrate all the powers in the mayor, those of Chicago talk of stripping the mayor to a figurehead and giving his powers to the aldermen who directly represent the people, and who change year by year. The Chicago way is but one way, however, and a new one, and it must be remembered that this plan has not yet produced a good administration. New York has that. Chicago, after 7 years' steady work, has a body of aldermen honest enough and competent to defend the city's interests against boodle capital, but that is about all. It has a wretched administration. New York has stuck to the old way. Provincial and self-centered, it hardly knows there is any other. Chicago laughs and other cities wonder, but never mind, New York, by persistence, has at last achieved a good administration. Will the New Yorkers continue it? That is the question. What Chicago has, it has secure. Its independent citizenship is trained to vote every time and to vote for uninteresting, good aldermen. New York has an independent vote of 100,000, a decisive minority, but the voters have been taught to vote only once in a long while, only when excited by picturesque leadership and sensational exposures, only against. New York has been so far an anti-bad government, anti-Tammany, not a good government town. Can it vote, without Tammany in to incite it, for a good mayor? I think this election, which will answer this question, should decide other cities how to go about reform. The administration of Mayor Seth Low may not have been perfect, not in the best European sense, not expert, not coordinated, certainly not wise. Nevertheless, for an American city, it has been not only honest, but able, undeniably one of the best in the whole country. Some of the departments have been dishonest, others have been so inefficient that they made the whole administration ridiculous. But what of that? Corruption also is clumsy and makes absurd mistakes when it is new and untrained. The oaths and ceremonies and much of the boodling of the St. Louis ring seemed laughable to my corrupt friends in Philadelphia and Tammany Hall, and New York's own Tweed regime was no joke, only because it was so general. And so expensive, to New York. It took time to perfect the Philadelphia plan of misgovernment, and it took time to educate Proctor and develop his Tammany Hall. It will take time to evolve masters of the, in America, unstudied art of municipal government, time and demand. So far there has been no market for municipal experts in this country. All we are clamoring for today in our meek, weak-hearted way, is that mean, rudimentary virtue miscalled common honesty. Do we really want it? Certainly Mayor Low is pecuniarily honest. He is more, he is conscientious and experienced and personally efficient. Bred to business, he rose above it, adding to the training he acquired in the conduct of an international commercial house, 2 terms as mayor of Brooklyn, and to that again a very effective administration, as president of the business of Columbia University. He began his mayoralty with a study of the affairs of New York. He has said himself that he devoted 8 months to its finances. And he mastered this department and is admitted to be the master in detail of every department which has engaged his attention. In other words, Mr. Lowe has learned the business of New York. He is just about competent now to become the mayor of a great city. Is there a demand for Mr. Lowe? No. When I made my inquiries, before the lying had begun, the fusion leaders of the anti-Tammany forces, who nominated Mr. Lowe, said they might renominate him. Who else was there? They asked. And they thought he might be re-elected. The alternative was Richard Croker or Charles F. Murphy, his man, for no matter who Tammany's candidate for mayor was, if Tammany won, Tammany's boss would rule. The personal issue was plain enough. Yet was there no assurance for Mr. Lowe? Why? There are many forms of the answer given, but they nearly all reduce themselves to one, the man's personality. It is not very engaging. Mr. Lowe has many respectable qualities, but these never are amiable. Did you ever see his smile? Said a politician who was trying to account for his instinctive dislike for the mayor. I had. There is no laughter back of it, no humor, and no sense thereof. The appealing human element is lacking all through. His good abilities are self-sufficient. His dignity is smug. His courtesy seems not kind. His self-reliance is called obstinacy because, though he listens, he seems not to care. Though he understands, he shows no sympathy. And when he decides, his reasoning is private. His most useful virtues, probity, intelligence, and conscientiousness, in action are often an irritation. They are so contented. Mr. Lowe is the bourgeois reformer type. Even where he compromises he gets no credit. His concessions make the impression of surrenders. A politician can say no and make a friend, where Mr. Lowe will lose one by saying yes. Cold and impersonal, he cools even his heads of departments. Loyal public service they give, because his taste is for men who would do their duty for their own sake, not for his, and that excellent service the city has had. But members of Mr. Lowe's administration helped me to characterize him. They could not help it. Mr. Lowe's is not a lovable character. But what of that? Why should his colleagues love him? Why should anybody like him? Why should he seek to charm, win affection, and make friends? He was elected to attend to the business of his office and to appoint subordinates who should attend to the business of their offices, not to make political strength and win elections. William Travers Jerome, the picturesque district attorney, whose sincerity and intellectual honesty made sure the election of Mr. Lowe 2 years ago, detests him as a bourgeois, but the mayoralty is held in New York to be a bourgeois office. Mr. Lowe is the ideal product of the New York theory that municipal government is business, not politics, and that a businessman who would manage the city as he would a business corporation would solve for us all our troubles. Chicago reformers think we have got to solve our own problems, that government is political business, that men brought up in politics and experienced in public office will make the best administrators. They have refused to turn from their politician Mayor Carter H. Harrison for the most ideal business candidate. And I have heard them say that when Chicago was ripe for a better mayor, they would prefer a candidate chosen from among their well-tried aldermen. Again, I say, however, that this is only one way, and New York has another, and this other is the standard American way. But again I say, also, that the New York way is on trial, for New York has what the whole country has been looking for in all municipal crises, the non-political ruler. Mr. Lowe's very faults, which I have emphasized for the purpose, emphasize the point. They make it impossible for him to be a politician even if he should wish to be. As for his selfishness, his lack of tact, his coldness, these are of no consequence. He has done his duty all the better for them. Admit that he is uninteresting. What does that matter? He has served the city. Will the city not vote for him because it does not like the way he smiles? Absurd as it sounds, that is what all I have heard against Lowe amounts to. But to reduce the situation to a further absurdity, let us eliminate altogether the personality of Mr. Lowe. Let us suppose he has no smile, no courtesy, no dignity, no efficiency, no personality at all. Suppose he were an it and had not given New York a good administration, but had only honestly tried. What then? Tammany Hall. That is the alternative. The Tammany politicians see it just as clear as that, and they are not in the habit of deceiving themselves. They say, it is a Tammany year, Tammany's turn. They say it and they believe it. They study the people, and they know it is all a matter of citizenship. They admit that they cannot win unless a goodly part of the independent vote goes to them. And still they say they can beat Mr. Lowe or any other man the anti-Tammany forces may nominate. So we are safe in eliminating Mr. Lowe and reducing the issue to plain Tammany. Tammany is bad government. Not inefficient, but dishonest. Not a party, not a delusion and a snare, hardly known by its party name, democracy. Having little standing in the national councils of the party and caring little for influence outside of the city. Tammany is Tammany, the embodiment of corruption. All the world knows and all the world may know what it is and what it is after. For hypocrisy is not a Tammany vice. Tammany is for Tammany, and the Tammany men say so. Other rings proclaim lies and make pretensions. Other rogues talk about the tariff and imperialism. Tammany is honestly dishonest. Time and time again, in private and in public, the leaders, big and little, have said they are out for themselves and their own. Not for the public, but for me and my friends, not for New York. But for Tammany. Richard Croker said under oath once that he worked for his own pockets all the time, and Tom Grady, the Tammany orator, has brought his crowds to their feet cheering sentiments as primitive, stated with candor as brutal. The man from Mars would say that such an organization, so self-confessed, could not be very dangerous to an intelligent people. Foreigners marvel at it and at us, and even Americans, Pennsylvanians, for example, cannot understand why we New Yorkers regard Tammany as so formidable. I think I can explain it. Tammany is corruption with consent. It is bad government founded on the suffrages of the people. The Philadelphia machine is more powerful. It rules Philadelphia by fraud and force and does not require the votes of the people. The Philadelphians do not vote for their machine votes for them. Tammany used to stuff the ballot boxes and intimidate voters. Today there is practically none of that. Tammany rules, when it rules, by right of the votes of the people of New York. Tammany corruption is democratic corruption. That of the Philadelphia ring is rooted in special interests. Tammany, too, is allied with vested interests, but Tammany labors under disadvantages not known in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia ring is of the same party that rules the state and the nation, and the local ring forms a living chain with the state and national rings. Tammany is a purely local concern. With a majority only in old New York, it has not only to buy what it wants from the Republican majority in the state, but must trade to get the whole city. Big business everywhere is the chief source of political corruption, and it is one source in New York, but most of the big businesses represented in New York have no plants there. Offices there are, and head offices, of many trusts and railways, for example, but that is all. There are but 2 railway terminals in the city, and but 3 railways use them. These have to do more with Albany than New York. So with Wall Street. Philadelphia's stock exchange deals largely in Pennsylvania securities, New York's in those of the whole United States. There is a small Wall Street group that specializes in local corporations, and they are active and give Tammany a Wall Street connection, but the biggest and the majority of our financial leaders, bribers though they may be in other cities and even in New York State, are independent of Tammany Hall and can be honest citizens at home. From this class, indeed, New York can, and often does, draw some of its reformers. Not so Philadelphia. That bourgeois opposition which has persisted for 30 years in the fight against Tammany corruption was squelched in Philadelphia after its first great uprising. Matt Key, through the banks, railways, and other business interests, was able to reach it. A large part of his power is negative. There is no opposition. Tammany's power is positive. Tammany cannot reach all the largest interests and its hold is upon the people. Tammany's democratic corruption rests upon the corruption of the people, the plain people, and there lies its great significance. Its grafting system is one in which more individuals share than any I have studied. The people themselves get very little. They come cheap, but they are interested. Divided into districts, the organization subdivides them into precincts or neighborhoods, and their sovereign power, in the form of votes, is bought up by kindness and petty privileges. They are forced to surrender, when necessary, by intimidation, but the leader and his captains have their hold because they take care of their own. They speak pleasant words, smile friendly smiles, notice the baby, give picnics up the river or the Sound, or a slap on the back, find jobs, most of them at the city's expense, but they have also newsstands. Peddling privileges, railroad and other business places to dispense. They permit violations of the law, and, if a man has broken the law without permission, see him through the court. Though a blow in the face is as readily given as a shake of the hand, Tammany kindness is real kindness, and will go far, remember long, and take infinite trouble for a friend. The power that is gathered up thus cheaply, like garbage, in the districts is concentrated in the district leader, who in turn passes it on through a general committee to the boss. This is a form of living government, extra-legal, but very actual, and, though the beginnings of it are purely democratic, it develops at each stage into an autocracy. In Philadelphia, the boss appoints a district leader and gives him power. Tammany has done that in 2 or 3 notable instances, but never without causing a bitter fight which lasts often for years. In Philadelphia, the state boss designates the city boss. In New York, Proctor has failed signally to maintain vice bosses whom he appointed. The boss of Tammany Hall is a growth, and just as Proctor grew, so has Charles F. Murphy grown up to Proctor's place. Again, whereas in Philadelphia the boss and his ring handle and keep almost all of the graft, leaving little to the district leaders, in New York the district leaders share handsomely in the spoils. There is more to share in New York. It is impossible to estimate the amount of it, not only for me, but for anybody. No Tammany man knows it all. Police friends of mine say that the Tammany leaders never knew how rich police corruption was till the Lexer Committee exposed it, and that the politicians who had been content with small presents, contributions, and influence did not butt in for their share till they saw by the testimony of frightened police grafters that the department was worth from $4 to $5 million a year. The items are so incredible that I hesitate to print them. Devery told a friend once that in 1 year the police graft was something over $3 million. Afterward the syndicate, which divided the graft under Devery, took in for 36 months $400,000 a month from gambling and pool rooms alone. Saloon bribers, disorderly house blackmail, policy, etc., etc., bring this total up to amazing proportions. Yet this was but one department, and a department that was overlooked by Tammany for years. The annual budget of the city is about $100 million, and though the power that comes of the expenditure of that amount is enormous and the opportunities for rake-offs infinite, this sum is not 1/2 of the resources of Tammany when it is in power. Her resources are the resources of the city as a business, as a political, as a social power. If Tammany could be incorporated, and all its earnings, both legitimate and illegitimate, gathered up and paid over in dividends, the stockholders would get more than the New York Central Bond and stockholders, more than the Standard Oil stockholders. And the controlling clique would wield a power equal to that of the United States Steel Company. Tammany, when in control of New York, takes out of the city unbelievable millions of dollars a year. No wonder the leaders are all rich. No wonder so many more Tammany men are rich than are the leaders in any other town. No wonder Tammany is liberal in its division of the graft. Proctor took the best and the safest of it, and he accepted shares in others. He was in on the Wall Street end, and the Tammany clique of financiers have knocked down and bought up at low prices Manhattan railway stock by threats of the city's power over the road. They have been let in on metropolitan deals and on the 3rd Avenue Railroad grab. The Ice Trust is a Tammany trust. They have banks and trust companies. And through the New York Realty Company are forcing alliances with such financial groups as that of the Standard Oil Company. Proctor shared in these deals and businesses. He sold judgeships, taking his pay in the form of contributions to the Tammany Campaign Fund, of which he was treasurer. And he had the judges take from the regular real estate exchange all the enormous real estate business that passed through the courts, and give it to an exchange connected with the real estate business of his firm, Peter F. Mayer & Co. This alone would maintain a ducal estate in England. But his real estate business was greater than that. It had extraordinary legal facilities, the free advertising of abuse, the prestige of political privilege, all of which brought in trade, and it had advance information and followed, with profitable deals, great public improvements. Though Proctor said he worked for his own pockets all the time, and did take the best of the graft, he was not hoggish. Some of the richest graft in the city is in the Department of Buildings. $100 million a year goes into building operations in New York. All of this, from outhouses to skyscrapers, is subject to very precise laws and regulations, most of them wise, some impossible. The building department has the enforcement of these. It passes upon all construction, private and public, at all stages, from plan making to actual completion, and can cause not only unavoidable delay, but can wink at most profitable violations. Architects and builders had to stand in with the department. They called on the right man and they settled on a scale which was not fixed, but which generally was on the basis of the department's estimate of a fair half of the value of the saving in time or bad material. This brought in at least a banker's percentage on 100 millions a year. Proctor, so far as I can make out, took none of this. It was let out to other leaders and was their own graft. District Attorney William Travers Jerome has looked into the dock department, and he knows things which he yet may prove. This is an important investigation for two reasons. It is very large graft, and the new Tammany leader, Charlie Murphy, had it. New York wants to know more about Murphy, and it should want to know about the management of its docks, since, just as other cities have the corrupt dealings with railways and their terminals. So New York's great terminal business is with steamships and docks. These docks should pay the city handsomely. Mr. Murphy says they shouldn't. He is wise, as Proctor was before he became old and garrulous, and, as Tammany men put it, keeps his mouth shut, but he did say that the docks should not be run for revenue to the city, but for their own improvement. The dock board has exclusive and private and secret control of the expenditure of $10 million a year. No wonder Murphy chose it. It is impossible to follow all New York graft from its source to its final destination. It is impossible to follow here the course of that which is well known to New Yorkers. There are public works for Tammany contractors. There are private works for Tammany contractors, and corporations and individuals find it expedient to let it go to Tammany contractors. Tammany has a very good system of grafting on public works. I mean that it is good from the criminal point of view, and so it has for the furnishing of supplies. Low bids and short deliveries, generally speaking, and that is the only way I can speak here, is the method. But the Tammany system, as a whole, is weak. Tammany men as grafters have a confidence in their methods and system, which, in the light of such perfection as that of Philadelphia, is amusing, and the average New Yorker takes in the organization a queer sort of pride, which is ignorant and provincial. Tammany is way behind the times. It is growing, it has improved. In Tweed's day the politicians stole from the city treasury, divided the money on the steps of the city hall, and, not only the leaders, big and little, but heelers and outsiders, not only Tweed, but ward carpenters robbed the city. Not only politicians, but newspapers and citizens were in on the divvy. New York, not Tammany alone, was corrupt. When the exposure came, and Tweed asked his famous question, "What are you going to do about it?" the ring mayor, Aoki Hall, asked another as significant. It was reported that suit was to be brought against the ring to recover stolen funds. "Who is going to sue?" said Mayor Hall, who could not think of anybody of importance sufficiently without sin to throw the first stone. Stealing was stopped and grafting was made more businesslike, but still it was too general, and the boodling for the Broadway Street Railway franchise prompted a still closer grip on the business. The organization since then has been gradually concentrating the control of graft. Proctor did not proceed so far along the line as the Philadelphia ring has, as the police scandals showed. After the Lexer exposures, Tammany took over that graft, but still let it go practically by districts, and the police captains still got a third. After the Mazet exposures, Devery became chief, and the police graft was so concentrated that the division was reduced to 14 parts. Again, later, it was reduced to a syndicate of 4 or 5 men, with a dribble of miscellaneous graft for the police. In Philadelphia the police have nothing to do with the police graft. A policeman may collect it, but he acts for a politician, who in turn passes it up to a small ring. That is the drift in New York. Under Devery the police officers got comparatively little, and the rank and file themselves were blackmailed for transfers and promotions, for remittances of fines, and in a dozen other petty ways. Philadelphia is the end toward which New York under Tammany is driving as fast as the lower intelligence and higher conceit of its leaders will let it. In Philadelphia one very small ring gets everything, dividing the whole as it pleases, and not all those in the inner ring are politicians. Trusting few individuals, they are safe from exposure, more powerful, more deliberate, and they are wise as politicians. When, as in New York, the number of grafters is large, this delicate business is in some hands that are rapacious. The police grafters, for example, in Devery's day, were not content with the amounts collected from the big vices. They cultivated minor vices, like policy, to such an extent that the policy king was caught and sent to prison, and Devery's wardman, Glennon, was pushed into so tight a hole that there was danger that District Attorney Jerome would get past Glennon to Devery and the syndicate. The murder of a witness the night he was in the Tenderloin police station served to save the day. But, worst of all, Tammany, the friend of the people, permitted the organization of a band of so-called cadets, who made a business, under the protection of the police, of ruining the daughters of the tenements and even of catching and imprisoning in disorderly houses the wives of poor men. This horrid traffic never was exposed. It could not and cannot be. Vicious women were planted in tenement houses, and, I know this personally, the children of decent parents counted the customers, witnessed their transactions with these creatures, and, as a father told with shame and tears, reported totals at the family table. Tammany leaders.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? How much of this did they take out of the Tammany playbook? Did you hear what that sentence just said? He was like, there was this band of cadets who made a business under police protection of going into tenement housing projects and trafficking children and women. How old is this stuff? Oh my God, these people, they've been doing this for as long as we've been willing to turn the other cheek and let them get away with it. Excellent job, T.A. Sarah. You have lots of bonus points to give away. Yes, T.A. Sarah, Tammany Hall is in gangs in New York. I think that's where I learned about it for the first time. 7 trillion bonus points to T.A. Sarah for the most perfect historical reference possible. I can't believe this. First of all, just so you understand what this article is saying, so this is the last chapter of Lincoln Steffens' The Shame of the Cities, and he's kind of saying, listen, New York had its revolutionary moment against corruption when Tammany fell, but now you have this problem where the people of New York are as complicit in a lot of what led to Tammany coming to power as the Tammany machine. And we didn't even address what was going on under Tammany, which included apparently cops trafficking children and women. And so in turn, we're going to go right back to that because we never talked about what was wrong. This article is fascinating. It's not an article, it's a book chapter. Listen, I know what I must do now. Okay? I understand. I know how I'm going to take my research and initial draft of my book and make it a book. I know what I have to explain. There was a patronage system in Norfolk County. There was. All of these jobs, all of this stuff was tied together. And it didn't function exactly the same as Tammany. Tammany Hall was very egregious. This was a lot quieter, but it involved a lot of the same shit. They would pass real estate around. That a lot of you don't pay a fucking bribe in cash. That's crazy. Not today. You transfer it through corporations, through real estate, all sorts of shit. Not to be vulgar about it, but that's just, there's so many fucking, do you want to know about the different types of corporate holding companies and fucking like offshore holding companies, and only the stupid people put their names on a company, and most of the time corporations or their records are private. So even if you get the holding company, you're probably not going to get the investor. We never would have found out Judge Krupp was on Green Jets unless the file got released by the DOJ, because Epstein included it as secret discovery as a form of threat right before he got arrested and then died in 2019 during a civil lawsuit. So that is how it works. When you're talking, and Michael Morrissey is the problem, but Michael Morrissey is just another William Delahunt or Bill Keating. Okay? These are the enablers. They're the ward bosses. They are the county bosses. They run a patronage system downwards and upwards, and then they're working for very wealthy people. Okay? Now, we got to talk a little bit about this. I hate communism, as you know. I loathe communism. We are not becoming communists. I don't even like socialism, frankly. I like the social safety net, okay? But I like regulated market capitalism. I love Adam Smith, okay? You want me to tell you about the price of wheat in 1791? Okay? I'll read you all about my favorite passage from Adam Smith, okay? I love that passage. It's really good. But my point remains the same, all right? I'm a regulated market capitalist. Where that breaks down and you basically become a communist like Stalin is where you get a lot of money and then you manipulate the system of government and turn it into your secret police. That's not capitalism. I don't know what the hell that is. It's closer to like autocracy, like Stefan said. It's not. Now he's not as bad as the guy who wrote The Grapes of Wrath. Not The Grapes of Wrath. What was that book about tuberculotic beef? Maybe Steffens did write the book about tuberculotic beef. Beef Expose America Journalism. Maybe it was him. Who wrote it? Yeah, who wrote it? Aldolphine Smith? Upton Sinclair. Okay, so Upton Sinclair was way more of a socialist. His famous quote was he tried to hit America in the head, like in the brain, with his article about the tuberculotic beef, but hit them in the stomach instead. Because he was trying to make America socialist, and he ended up creating the FDA, which is kind of fucking hilarious if you think about it. Like, you're a socialist, and you're trying to overthrow America, and they're like, nah, bro, like, we're not trying to become socialists, but we totally want to get rid of the tuberculotic beef, so we're going to create the FDA. That's such an American response to Marxism. I love it. So anyway, my point with this is, so I'm a regulated market capitalist, and when you abuse the system of government, it's more than patronage. These people are like weird hedonists. Like, you think they're just doing this for money? What is the point of money? They don't do this to look at their bank account and be like, I have a lot of fucking zeros. No, they do shit that, you know what gets them off? Doing stuff you're not allowed to do. Drugs, trafficking people, and at the worst end of it, hurting children for sexual gratification. That's the only way they can get a thrill in life. I'm surprised most of them still have septums, to be honest. You know, I try not to be that mean, but like, seriously, they got real problems. They do so much blow, it's almost unbelievable. I can't even fathom how much cocaine these people do on like a weekly basis. They live in, like, you think like the people who listened to Wagner in the 30s in Germany were a problem. Only by the grace of God did these sadistic freaks not get more power in this country. Because let me just tell you right now that I've read this paragraph and I understand how long this has been going on for, they're freaks. They're absolutely just disgusting. And they're very base. They have like carnal instincts. And like all they care about is control, pleasure, and leisure time. And the money is and the political power and all of that is a means to an end. They treat people like drugs. All right? And that's why they're so interested in the brain. Because all they do is seek pleasure until they fry their fucking neurons. And then they're like, I'm depressed. Well, no shit. You did cocaine for 40 fucking years. Hello? Oh my god, it's absurd. Like, it's absurd. And it's worse now. It was bad then in like now let me give you a little more context. So this is 1903 and Steffens is writing at 1904 and he's like, listen, at least New York cleaned up Tammany, but they didn't really clean it up. Now, he was right. Do you understand what happened in 1907? Do you know how bad the Panic of 1907 was? Hedonism rules the day. Before we go to the Panic of 07, excellent question, JMW. I think it's not Luciferianism. I think it's closer to Cananism. Where, like, it's not like one place or one group, but it's easiest to identify it with. It's actually Assyrian, if you really want to go back. I'd say Assyrian sort of influence, okay? And the Assyrian influence in that sort of the emergence, remind me to go back to 1907, The emergence of the Assyrian influence, I think, can be easily traced through the Canaanites. So if you read the Old Testament, you can learn a lot. They specifically talk about the Canaanites. And the Canaanites, okay, so it's a little complicated because they're like the Levant was like what you know is like Lebanon and Iraq and Jordan and the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt and Israel, that in Gaza and the West Bank and Palestine, that area of the world in like pre-biblical times was like there weren't a lot of like cities or like there were no countries. Countries didn't exist until 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, but there were just city-states, and the city-states like emerged like as we know them like in proto-Egyptian like Assyrian culture. It probably is actually older than that based on the underground city in Turkey, Tegucigalpa. No, that's a pyramid in Latin America. There's an underground city in Turkey that goes back probably contemporaneous with the Assyrian Empire. I'm forgetting Göbekli Tepe? No, that's a pyramid. What is the freaking underground city in Turkey from 10,000 years ago? Hold on, I'm gonna be mad if I don't remember this. It might be Göbekli Tepe. No. 10,000 years old. Yeah, I can't believe I got that right. Göbekli Tepe. I can't believe I got that right. That's not anywhere near my realm of knowledge. But anyway, Göbekli Tepe is a very interesting piece of architectural or archaeological history because it's like 10,000 years old roughly, and it aligns with this pre-Canaanite Assyrian culture. And basically, it's a little complicated. So, oh God, how do I explain this? So, first of all, the idea of monotheism did not exist. It's really hard for contemporary humans to even understand like what belief was because they didn't have one God. They had a lot of gods, okay? And some of the gods were like gods of fertility and gods of like harvest. And let's just say like a lot of people back then like didn't understand like why it didn't rain. Let's use a very general example. So these very early humans would be like, it didn't rain for a long time and we don't have any food. Like what should we do? And then they came up with these personifications of certain gods. But we're in the age of not monotheism, multitheism, more than one god, all right? Polytheism. And these polytheistic gods they represent good and bad things. So before the time of Jesus, it was just as common for a culture to worship an evil god as it was for a culture to worship a benevolent god. Now they don't think of it, they wouldn't have thought of it as evil, I think. They would have probably said it was for some kind of purpose, but in essence, the bad gods, okay, became predominant in certain areas of the Levant. Assyria being one of them, Canaan, the city of Canaan being another. Now, the city of Canaan, the people there were called Canaanites. The reason why they got sort of associated with this like Assyrian like devil worship, which it basically was, is that the Assyrians passed down to them this god. It has a lot of different names, Baal, Baalzebub. It's actually a portmanteau of two Assyrian gods, both of whom are very negative. And basically, they believed at this time, this is pre the time of Jesus, like 6,000 years, contemporaneous with Egypt, so there's a little Egyptian influence, but very different. It's just a different tract of religious development. There's influence, but it's different. And so they show up in Canaan, and if you read, you don't need to take my word for it, you can just read the Old Testament, which has a historical account of Canaan. These people did everything you just read about, but were, like, there wasn't money as we know it today. So they would just, like, take children to a big pit and, like, kill the children and throw the children in the pit. And that's how they would try to, like, bring about rain. And there was a lot of, like, sex rituals, sex magic, like, all designed around, like, base carnal human instinct. Like, there's no food, and the gods didn't give us any food, so we got to do stuff to feel better. That's like I'm being very general, but that's like where this practice came from. Now, after the time of Jesus, if you read the Old Testament and the New Testament, the Bible, you're going to learn that, like, Jesus really doesn't like these specific people. He calls them a bunch of different things. Okay, like, he refers to them with all these different names because they pop up in different groups in society. But the point is the same. He hates them. Like, Jesus doesn't hate very many people. You can read Matthew 23. He hates these people. They come up more than once. He hates them. And it's because, like, before Jesus was alive, there was like this thousands of years of influence of this Canaanite. We're going to call it Canaanite. It's really Assyrian religion. Is it what we know as religion? No, because Judaism did not exist, neither did Christianity, neither did Islam. It's like this prototypical, like pre-Judaism, pre-Abrahamic form of religion. It's polytheism, okay? The reason that monotheism starting with Judaism, then Christianity, then Islam. The reason monotheism gets into a war with polytheism, in part, is because this tradition that passes down from Assyria to Canaan in the times of Jesus, then to another city called Carthage in the time of Alexander the Great. He tried to get there, I don't think he did. I think the Romans actually got to Carthage. I think it was the Romans. When the Romans got to Carthage, I think Alexander the Great tried to get to Carthage, but he didn't get all the way there. When the Romans got to Carthage, they found, like, worse practices than what Jesus described going on in Canaan. The Romans didn't make a habit of destroying cities. That doesn't make sense. They incorporated them into their empire. The Romans burned Carthage to the ground. The whole city. They may have spared the women and children. I don't know. I don't even know if the women were spared. The children may have been spared. Because you got to understand, back in the day, war was different. If you went into a city, you didn't just kill the children. You took the children out of the city. Okay? You normally would impress them into your own empire, put them, like, raise them. You didn't kill the children. Okay, it was considered, like, grotesque. Really, even women. You weren't supposed to just slaughter women. Carthage, I'm pretty sure they may have actually killed the women too. They burned the entire city to the ground with the people in it. Because, and you can read about this, when they got there, they opened the city gates and they went to the area of the city, they invaded it, where they did their ritualistic sacrifices, and they found 50,000 child corpses or something. I don't remember the exact number, it was a lot. They had left the corpses and bones in an open pit. They were proud of what they were doing. And so they burned the whole city to the ground. And this religion has not gone away. I don't know what the hell it is. I don't like it. It hates Christianity. It actually hates Judaism and Islam. It really does. It hates the like authentic beliefs of those religions. It hates monotheism. And so I don't know exactly what it is, but it's older than Christ. I mean, definitively, according to the historical record, this religion has been around so we'd be foolish to think it's not still around. So that's my answer to a very long answer to and I'm going to go back to 1907, but it's a very long answer to the question of what do I think this religion or lack thereof that these people follow actually is. Calling it the mystery schools is one way of describing it. The more appropriate way, because it gets very convoluted when you start talking about like the Babylonian mystery schools, which are relevant to this. The easiest way to describe it, though, is just to call it what it is, which is the same people that Jesus was talking about from Canaan, and the same people who were in Carthage. They just move around, and they're sick. They're sick in the head. They have this like gene, or they got this like lineage. They're very into like bloodline purity. They're very into like manipulating the presentation of the human genome. Like that's why they're very interested in the mind. They're very interested in pleasure seeking, and also like regulating the impact of pleasure seeking on the degradation of neural networks in the brain. And then also they're really into sex magic. It's weird. Like they're very into sex. I don't know why. It's cool, bro. Like that's nice. Go forth, have babies, you know. But they're into sex on like a recreational level, which is odd to me. Like, I understand not everyone can have sex to have babies. I understand. But at least have sex for love. They're into it for, like, sport. Like, they're the type of people who would, like, hunt humans for fun. And this is not... So it's not like... I think it's hard for people to understand because they think, rightfully so, that if you grow up in, like, the Catholic Church or any church or organized modern religion, you would never do this stuff. Like, or you'd feel very guilty for doing it. Well, yeah, that's kind of why Jesus was killed. Because he was telling people, like, look, they're doing this. You should feel bad about it. And by the way, there's only one God. So, yeah. That was a genius way to, it was God's will, to point out to human civilization that these crazy devil worshippers were dangerous. So anyway, there's a lot of religion and spirituality that comes with analyzing the emergence of sort of that Canaanite tradition around the time of Jesus. You're free to interpret it sort of as you want, but I do recommend studying the historical record because it goes way prior, I mean thousands of years prior to the time of Jesus. All right, that's a fascinating aside. We'd have to spend months researching that. I've listened to so many lectures. I'm very interested in pre-Abrahamic polytheistic religions because I'm trying to understand what Jesus was mad about. So I listened to a lot of lectures at Yale in particular about pre-Abrahamic religions. I know a lot about them. It's kind of a special interest. I think they're really evil. Not all of them. Some of them are okay. But on the whole, they do some weird stuff. And they're still around. We'd be foolish to think these, like, pagans, or whatever they're called. They're not really pagans. I'd call them more Baal worshippers. Aren't around. Of course they are. They just don't have temple. Dude, you think they're gonna, like, stand out there with, like, a temple to Baal? No, they have them like under, their temples, from what I understand, are underground. Literally, the tradition is to build it like in like build a room under like the ground. You're supposed to have it underground for some reason. I don't really know. I guess like symbolism, but you're not supposed to meet in public. That's the whole point of it. They know that the public hates them. going back to 1907. So what's fascinating about this 1904 piece by Lincoln Steffens, he's writing in 1904 when Tammany has fallen, but he's writing 3 years before the Panic of 1907. Now, if you know anything about the Knickerbocker Trust, then you're going to know exactly what the very interests that Lincoln Steffens was warning about here, Northern Steel, J.P. Morgan, J.D. Rockefeller, Paul Warburg, the Rothschilds, all of them, okay? You're going to know exactly what they did, which is they saw a problem, which was that there was no central bank in the United States. So debts were basically unsecure. There was a bunch, it's very complicated. There was a bunch of, there were state banks, okay? To understand the economic constellation of 1904 to 1907, you have to understand state banks. States issued their own currency. In fact, banks issued their own currency. But you ran into this problem where you would get banknotes issued in one state that were not good in the other state. I know. So it was a problem. But people liked it that way. They liked local control of currency because it prevented speculation. When you bet on a currency, it devalues the buying power, the purchasing power of the currency. So to combat speculation on money markets, literally the exchange of money, Americans for a very long time demanded that they have local control over issuance of currency. In 1907, these bankers in New York, the big New York bankers on the stock exchange, basically, there was no New York Stock Exchange, or there was the very beginning of it. They created market conditions in New York. They actually manipulated a big bank in New York into investing in the steel market. Now, the steel market in New York in 1907 was very volatile, and it actually collapsed. And the problem was not the collapse of the steel market per se, but the fact it had something to do with some war, maybe the Cuban War, the Spanish-American War, I don't remember. I just know that there was a dearth of access to steel, and so it caused a run on the steel market, and then prices collapsed in America. There was just some problem with the steel market in 1907. So right before the steel market collapsed, the Knickerbocker Trust put a big bet on the steel market. They put almost all their money on it. They were a big bank. You ever heard of the New York Knicks? Knickerbocker Trust. So the Knickerbocker Trust was a bank, and it went belly up in 1907. It went belly up because J.P. Morgan wanted it to go belly up. When it went belly up, the country's economy collapsed. It's called a panic. There's a difference between a panic, a recession, and a depression. So my sound is bad. Yeah, so I have a new microphone. And unfortunately, my new microphone, while it completely eradicates the noise from my cooling fans, it's not the best at picking up my voice. And you know what it actually be? It could just be the angle that I'm talking into it. So let me try adjusting that a little bit too. How about that? All right. I can also order a new mic. Okay, I left my main studio microphone in the court today. I was very busy. But yeah, I'm experimenting with ways to use a pop mic that will filter out the air cooling. So getting back to the Knickerbocker Trust. The Knickerbocker Trust and I can also turn this level down a little bit. The Knickerbocker Trust in, I'd want to say 1907 makes this bad bet on the steel market. Well, the steel market in New York collapses. What do you think happens? All of the people who have money invested in the Knickerbocker Trust, they go to, I did have the sound up just way too loud. I think the mic actually can handle me talking at these levels. All right, let's try this. All the people with their money in the Knickerbocker Trust Bank go to the Knickerbocker Trust and say, we want our money. You ever seen It's a Wonderful Life? Just imagine that, but in 1904 instead of the 40s. And it wasn't a savings and loans, it was an actual bank. So they all run down there, and it causes a bank run. Well, J.P. Morgan and Paul Warburg, who was actually the Rothschilds man in New York, they, in all their benevolence, of course, step up and they're like, hey, bro, don't worry about it. We'll use our private funds to float the Knickerbocker Trust deposits. See where this is going? And then there won't be any more bank runs. Okay, well, about 5 years later, in 1912, those same guys, Warburg, J.P. Morgan, whatever, Senator Nelson Aldrich, who would go on to be Woodrow Wilson's Secretary of the Treasury, they go down to Jekyll Island in Georgia. And there's a great book called The Creature from Jekyll Island that I recommend you read. Very, very good book. So, they go down there, and they come up with this idea. They really came up with it earlier, but they ostensibly come up with this plan to create a third central bank in American history. The reason Jefferson and Hamilton, and then Jefferson and Adams, and then Jefferson and Washington had a falling out is because Washington, Hamilton, and Adams all supported a central bank. And Jefferson thought that it would destroy the country through fiat lending. He was right. But in any event, after the Jekyll Island meeting, the Federal Reserve Act of 1912 gets signed. It gets passed into law in 1913 by Wilson. That bill was really dangerous. It was on the theory that there should be a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation that can stop bank runs by insuring deposits. But really what it did was take the power to print money away from the federal government and the states. The Federal Reserve is not, I mean, its governors are appointed by the Board of Governors, by the president. But do you know who actually owns the Federal Reserve? As someone once said, it's about as federal as Federal Express. The guy who created Federal Express got a C- in college, by the way. He wrote an essay proposing the company. C-. I don't think he let his professor invest. The Knick stars Clive Owen. It takes place around 1904 at the Knickerbocker Hospital. T.A. Sarah, 724 trillion bonus points for you. Okay? You are just a film buff. Look at T.A. Sarah taking all the notes. Did you know I know a lot of stuff? As I was sitting there thinking it through, I was like, wait a minute. I know a lot of things. I'm not reading any notes, by the way. Do you understand everything that I'm saying? I don't know where it comes from. I just know it. I've read a lot of books, I suppose, but every time I read a book, I see all the pages in my head. I file them away, you know, if it's interesting, and then I just have the book in my head. So I just go look. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember The Creature from Jekyll Island. Then I go read the book, and I'm like, I'll just tell them about the book. Yeah. I have a very expansive knowledge base. Now that I think about it, I don't really think about it that much. I don't have time. But I really know a lot of stuff. You all tell me all the time, but I just feel like you're trying to encourage me, and I know that's not it. I know you genuinely feel that way, but I'm like, oh, they just really like my work. They want me to feel supported. But I think I actually know a lot of things. You can just name subjects. I just know about them. That's fascinating. Didn't the 1907 panic include Moore and Shiley? Some golf girl. You may well have gone beyond my basis of knowledge of the panic of 1907, and now I want to learn more about Moore and Shelley. I know that the center of the panic of 1907 was the Knickerbocker Trust, and I know the result of the panic of 1907 was J.P. Morgan using his private funds to finance deposits in the lead up to the creation of the Federal Reserve in 1912, which was the third central bank of the U.S., which was shepherded through the Senate by Nelson Aldrich, who then went on to become Woodrow Wilson's Secretary of the Treasury to oversee the implementation of said bill. But there may be more to it. I may be truncating the history. Do you have any more questions, class? And does anyone have any questions? Hello, Elizabeth. Yeah, we're having a nice lecture on the early 1900s. I meant to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed in like 15 minutes. I guess some people don't want to watch football though, so I guess it's good to offer alternative programming to football that's educational in nature. You can call me sardonically and for artistic purposes a wannabe towel PBS. You know, it's better than watching Ken Burns. I feel like in some sense Ken Burns is similar to this, but with me, you don't get sort of a theme for, like, you know, the knowledge. It's just like, you better just be ready to just go, because you're going to go from like pre-Abrahamic religions to the Panic of 1907, like basically immediately, and you better be able to like keep up, because he's not going to stop. So that's kind of fun. That's what my brain's like. I'm trying to create an encyclopedic, well, no, I'm trying to create a philosophy of history, so I need to know everything about every human civilization. And then I want to study the emergence of moral, psycho-social, civic, political, and economic trends throughout every human civilization, and then compare and contrast the legitimacy and the efficacy of their functioning in the context of engendering human autonomy within the lawmaking, judicial, and legislative and executive contexts. Does that sound about right? It's a big project. I aim to have it done within, I don't know, 3 months? No, I'm joking. I do really like Will and Ariel Durant, though, so the problem is I can't do this unless I can do it better than Will and Ariel Durant. They stopped with Napoleon. Now, they must have been, like, really struggling to have to stop with Napoleon, because they almost got to the present day, but they were very old by the end. If you've never read Will and Ariel Durant, by the way, I really recommend it. Now, you're going to go look up Will and Ariel Durant, and be like, oh my god, they wrote basically as much as Tao. Yeah. Oh yeah. They are my, I talk a lot about my intellectual heroes, Will and Ariel Durant and Father Copplestone. I don't know if I can ever replicate Father Copplestone's analogy of the anthology of the history of philosophy. And I don't think I can ever replicate what Will and Ariel Durant did. Let me just get you Father Copplestone's anthology of the history of philosophy. 1 second. Let me get this. Okay, this work. Hold on, let me figure this out. Oh, I see. Let's try that. Okay, how about that? All right, there we go. All right, this work, ladies and gentlemen, it is like 10 volumes, okay? It's Father Copplestone's anthology for the history of philosophy. This is one of the volumes. If you open this book up, okay, there was something interesting here that I found. I don't exactly know. Must have been something about Hume's. Jeremy Bentham. This book alone covers the utilitarian movement. It covers Bentham. It covers James Mill. It covers, and then Benthamite economics. It covers the utilitarian movement, which includes J.S. Mill and Mill's on civil liberty. It then has a whole chapter on Mill's logic and empiricism. Then it goes into empiricism, agnosticism, and positivists. So you get Alexander Bain, Henry Sedgwick, Charles Darwin, T.H. Huxley, John Tyndall, Leslie Stephen, G.J. Romans, and G.H. Lewis, W.K. Clifford, K. Pearson. Then you get the philosophy of Herbert Spencer. Then you get the idealist movement in Great Britain. So you get things like Ferrier and John Grott. I don't even know who they are. You get the rise of the interest in Hegel. You get the development of British idealism. You get absolute idealism with Bradley. Then you get more absolute idealism with Bosanquet. I don't even know who that is. And then you get idealism in America. 3 chapters on that. Then you get the pragmatist movement. Then you get the revolt against idealism with realism in Britain and America. Then you get Bertrand Russell. And then you move on to the next book. This is what I would spend my days doing. I love this stuff. So anyway, my point is I'm trying to take what Will and Ariel Durant were doing and what Father Copplestone was doing and then kind of model it a little bit after what Vico and Hegel were doing. And then I'd like to structure a philosophy of history that also works as a history of philosophy. Boom. Hello, Dirty Berg. So good to see you all. Yes, I'm absolutely going to be looking them up, Some Golf Girl. Let's finish our article, okay? Then I'm going to do Tippecanoe and Tyler 2. Then I'm going to go to bed. Then I'm going to wake up and do FOIAs tomorrow, because we deserve our FOIAs. If there are no FOIAs tomorrow, I will object ferociously and then probably just kind of go about my business. All right, let's go.
Tammany leaders are usually the natural leaders of the people in these districts, and they are originally good-natured, kindly men. No one has a more sincere liking than I for some of those common but generous fellows. Their charity is real, at first. But they sell out their own people. They do give them coal and help them in their private troubles, but, as they grow rich and powerful, the kindness goes out of the charity and they not only collect at their saloons or in rents. Cash for the goodness. They not only ruin fathers and sons and cause the troubles they relieve, they sacrifice the children in the schools, let the health department neglect the tenements, and, worst of all, plant vice in the neighborhood and in the homes of the poor. This is not only bad, it is bad politics. It has defeated Tammany. Woe to New York when Tammany learns better. Honest fools talk of the reform of Tammany Hall. It is an old hope, this, and twice it has been disappointed, but it is not vain. That is the real danger ahead. The reform of a corrupt ring means, as I have said before, the reform of its system of grafting and the wise consideration of certain features of good government. Croker turned his best chief of police, William S. Devery, out of Tammany Hall, and, slow and old as he was, Croker learned what clean streets were from Colonel Waring, and gave them. Now there is a new boss, a young man, Charles F. Murphy, and unknown to New Yorkers. He looks dense, but he acts with force, decision, and skill. The new mayor will be his man. He may divide with Croker and leave to the old man all his accustomed graft, but Charlie Murphy will rule Tammany and, if Tammany is elected, New York also. Lewis Nixon is urging Murphy publicly, as I write, to declare against the police scandals and all the worst practices of Tammany. Lewis Nixon is an honest man, but he was one of the men Croker tried to appoint leader of Tammany Hall. And when he resigned, Mr. Nixon said that he found that a man could not keep that leadership and his self-respect. Yet Mr. Nixon is a type of the man who thinks Tammany would be fit to rule New York if the organization would reform. As a New Yorker, I fear Murphy will prove sagacious enough to do just that, stop the scandal, put all the graft in the hands of a few tried and true men, and give the city what it would call good government. Murphy says he will nominate for mayor a man so good that his goodness will astonish New York. I don't fear a bad Tammany mayor, I dread the election of a good one. For I have been to Philadelphia. Philadelphia had a bad ring mayor, a man who promoted the graft and caused scandal after scandal. The leaders there, the wisest political grafters in this country, learned a great lesson from that. As one of them said to me, the American people don't mind grafting, but they hate scandals. They don't kick so much on a jiggered public contract for a boulevard, but they want the boulevard and no fuss and no dust. We want to give them that. We want to give them what they really want, a quiet Sabbath, safe streets, orderly nights, and homes secure. They let us have the police graft. But this mayor was a hog. You see, he had but one term and he could get his share only on what was made in his term. He not only took a hog's share off what was coming, but he wanted everything to come in his term. Sir, I'm down on grafting mayors and grafting office holders. I tell you it's good politics to have honest men in office. I mean men that are personally honest. So they got John Weaver for mayor, and honest John Weaver is checking corruption, restoring order, and doing a great many good things, which it is good politics to do. For he is satisfying the people, soothing their ruffled pride, and reconciling them to machine rule. I have letters from friends of mine there, honest men, who wish me to bear witness to the goodness of Mayor Weaver. I do. And I believe that if the Philadelphia machine leaders are as careful with Mayor Weaver as they have been and let him continue to give to the end as good government as he has given so far, the Philadelphia plan of graft will last and Philadelphia will never again be a free American city. Philadelphia and New York began about the same time, some 30 years ago, to reform their city governments. Philadelphia got good government, what the Philadelphians call good, from a corrupt ring and quit, satisfied to be a scandal to the nation and a disgrace to democracy. New York has gone on fighting, advancing and retreating, for 30 years, till now it has achieved the beginnings, under Mayor Lowe, of a government for the people. Do the New Yorkers know it? Do they care? They are Americans, mixed and typical. Do we Americans really want good government? Or, as I said at starting, have they worked for 30 years along the wrong road, crowded with unhappy American cities, the road to Philadelphia and despair? Postscriptum. Mayor Lowe was nominated on the Fusion ticket. Tammany nominated George B. McClellan. The local corporations contributed heavily to the Tammany campaign fund, and the people of New York elected the Tammany ticket by a decisive majority of 62,696. The vote was McClellan, 314,782, Lowe, 252,086. This work is in the public domain in the United States, because it was published in 1904.
Well, there is your lesson. Hello, Robbie. So good to see you. Excellent job to everyone who took notes and paid attention. We learned all about Tammany Hall. We learned all about St. Louis. And, more importantly, we saw a very prescient warning, right? The choice is the Tammany ticket next Tuesday, by comparison, or Adam Deitch. And you, the people of Norfolk County, I hope, I was once a resident of Norfolk County, will make the right decision. It is, as they say, in your hands. I put the mic on Pete Bunny. He's a little bit aggravated with me. He's the channel mascot. Excellent job. 50 billion bonus points to everyone who paid attention throughout tonight's lecture. It wasn't supposed to be a lecture. You got bonus towel lecture. Now listen, I'm going to do Tippecanoe and Tyler 2. Francine, your friend Peep is here. This is Francine's friend. He's Peep. Now, God bless you all. Thank you all for your support today. It was a long day. I love and adore all of you. You are all very, very wonderful. Now, I ordered some South African treats so I could get ready for Towel Girlfriend, so I could, understand her, interest in candy. So I have not tried any of these yet, okay? I got this very cool. Now, I did pay for it. This is not a sponsor. However, if they want to get involved with this channel, I should send them an email, because I bet they would. So it's this great company that sends treats and various sweets from countries. Like, you pick the country and they send you a treat box. This was like $14. Now, it did cost about $1 per candy bar, okay, which is, I think if you bought them like in a pack of 14, it probably would be a little cheaper. But overall, this was a very good deal. Now, I don't know what a 5-star bar is, okay? I've had a lot of candy bars in my day. I've never had a 5-star, so I don't know if I'm going to try that before bed. Now, a flake, okay, I have had before, okay? I've been to England, so I have had a flake. This, I don't know what this is. Now, it does have a sticker on it that tells me I'm awesome, but it seems to be a PS bar, layers of wafer and chocolate flavored cream smothered in Cadbury milk chocolate. I have no idea what that is. Now, my favorite type of candy bar is a Crunchy. Now, if you are from the United States, you have never had a Crunchy, most likely. Listen, you don't know what you're missing. These are like gold, okay? They're only made in the United Kingdom, okay? I guess they're also sent to South Africa. Most Commonwealth realms, countries have them. Americans, listen to me. First of all, do not allow Nestle to make them. You hear me? Nestle will ruin them. Don't do it. You go and you find the UK. Now, the way you'll know it's UK, all right, is when you look on the back here. All right, all of the serving information is going to be European, like the weight, the ingredients. It's all going to be in grams. It's all going to be in European language. What I mean by that is it's going to be like English and some other like European language, French or something like that. All right, so there you go. This one's from Poland. Now, I also don't know what a lunch bar is. I do know that candy bars were created for lunch initially, but I've never heard of a lunch bar. And then, what else is there? There's one of these. There's a bunch of treats in here. There's surprisingly like a lot of treats. there's something called a Cadbury Dairy Milk Top Deck. I don't even know what the hell that is. All right, I'm finding out about candies that I didn't even know existed. So anyway, oh, and then there's these things. I did try one of these. They're these little like caramel sweets. They're very good. Overall, I'm thrilled with my purchase, and I'm learning all about South Africa. What about Willy Wonka bars? I don't see any Willy Wonka bars. I did have a Willy Wonka bar once. I give it a 10 out of 10. But I think my favorite candy, though, is the Crunchy. All right? So my point is I did have some lunch. Those of you will be thrilled to know I had a steak sandwich for lunch when I got home with some rice. It was delicious. I know a lot of you Towel Chat moms want to make sure that I eat. Now, Towel Chat Mom Lynn's merchandise came in, by the way, towel merch. So I'm just going to let you know before I go to bed how adorable, how great is all of this. She's the first person who got the Run shirt. It came out great. Now, it's meant to be like that, okay? It's not, like, I didn't really want my face on a shirt. So I kind of left some of the smoky graphic from, it's more like a graphic edit from one of the videos. So I didn't want my face on a shirt, but I loved the Run design. So I intentionally printed it that way. I just did not want it, okay, to be like me. But I thought this was like enough of a silhouette, and I thought it made the point, and I thought the point of the shirt was Run. So if you know, you know, and I thought it was good enough. Now, it's not just good enough, I just didn't want my face on a shirt, and this is how I compromised. Now, That's It, I'm Made. I love that one. Towel Chat Mom Lynn clearly loves that one. She got the shirt. She got the blanket. She's the first one. Someone else got the blanket too, but I haven't seen the blanket. Look at the blanket. It's a full blanket. I didn't know it was a giant blanket. And then the Towel Chat Mom Bunny. We now know, Kofi, we now know who your twin is. It is Towel Chat Mom Lynn. She has the second apron. Oh, I can't. So listen, YouTube, the Run song, YouTube changed its, updated its license sharing, and the person who made the Run song has to click agree. They have like 6 months or something, and it's not back in the catalog yet. I promise. As soon as they update, they actually get more money now per play, but they have to click a button, from what I understand, because some of them are repopulating. So if the artist does that, I promise you we will get the Run song. But until then, we are runless. However, you can take a look at these great items. And I just love it. I love how the Run shirt came out. The whole point of the Run shirt was the word Run, if you can't tell. It's meant to like emphasize that. I made that graphic myself, okay, all of that. And then, like, yeah, I if you can't tell, I really didn't want my face on a shirt, but I thought it, like, I said it, so it had to go on the shirt, and that's how I compromised. I love everything about it. Thank you, Towel Chat Mom Lynn. I love how the bunny's teeth are the shade of the blanket. That's my favorite part. So I designed the bunny so that its teeth and eyes will match whatever background color you pick. So if you want the bunny to like have a white teeth and eyes, you just pick the white background, or the bunny can be gray. So the bunny changes personality based on the background color. It's great. Spacey says, I love the Boss Tweet stuff because I'm so interested in the Lenape chief Taman Tammany Hall is named after. Oh, I would love to learn about that. Spacey, you're wonderful. Thank you for teaching me about that. All right, so I think your face on it is impactful. Huh. Well, that's it. I love that you guys, or that you feel that way, you wonderful towel friends. I'll think more about it, all right? Maybe if, maybe I'll feel empowered and I'll make a shirt with my face on it saying other things. But right now, the Run shirt is all you're getting with my face on it. All right? What I really like is that Peep, which reminded me to bring this up, is on the item. So if you want to get your own, if you like anything you see, this is not a shopping channel. I'm not a weatherman or Vanna White. I'm just a towel. You can go to towelnewsnetwork.com where you can get all of your wonderful towel items. Now, I also have a book out before I go. Yeah, the Run shirt, I just love the Run, like, sort of phraseology. So now I do have a book out, so if you have not got your copy and you're able to do so, feel free to check out Amazon. The book got as high as number 39,000. I didn't check today. So what I've noticed is, like, the book will go up. It's really hard once you're in like the top 40,000 to go up. I went up like 1,000 to like 39, then fell a little bit. But I noticed yesterday I went up and then fell and then went up again. So if you want to help the book, right now is like the first like week or so, I guess, like when a book is new, the sales are very important. So if you'd like to help and you haven't picked up your copy, you can find the information in the chat. Go ahead and click on the Amazon link. I'll actually show you how to do it right now. I got the book from my Nana, so you can actually send copies. You can buy a copy and then send it to other people. It has, if you've read it, by the way, and you have time tonight, if you want to do Tal a favor, please consider leaving the book a review. All right. Now, as you see, when you go to the books page, okay, it's called Boss Tweed Days in Norfolk County, okay, and then The Rise and Fall of Michael Morrissey's Machine, a true account of political corruption and machine politics in New England. When you go to Amazon, you don't need a Kindle. All you do is click Read Now, all right? It'll take you right to the reader built into Amazon, and you can go ahead and take a look at this whole book, all right? Put the Kindle version together myself. If you bring up the chapter list, it is fully functional, all right? You can go to each chapter in the book. And the book's also available for free, so if you're outside the United States of America and you need, it's available in 12 countries worldwide, but if you are outside the United States of America and you cannot get access to this book, feel free to just let me know, either in chat or at email, grantsmithellis@gmail.com, and I will give you the Google Drive link. God bless you all. It's so good to see you. Journalism on YouTube is illegal. Hi, Mishigama. The towel face shirt is off the charts. You're wonderful, Mishigama. God bless you all. Let's do Tippecanoe and Tyler 2 and then get ready for bed. And then I'm going to go have a candy bar. Then I'm going to go, about my day tomorrow. I got things to do. Mostly see what happens with the FOIA. All right, here we go. So if you've never been here before, at the end of streams, oh, by the way, we have a Discord. We also have, so that's, you can hang out. I pop in there in the morning sometimes. That's a great way to help. If you found today's content helpful, if you want to help, if you want to pay it forward, my goal is to educate, inform, and entertain. I strive to engender the cogency of public discourse by using 20% entertainment to insulate your brain from trauma, 40% information, 40% education. If you'd like to support that, you can do so via Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. Money sign Grant Smith Ellis is the Cash App. Venmo at Grant-E1. The PayPal is paypal.me/Grant Ellis. You can also find the links in the chat and the stream description. Please don't feel obligated to do so. Please do not donate if it would take away from your family or your animals or other causes that you support. Please don't donate if it would be a burden. But God bless each and every one of you who do help keep me alive and help support these efforts. I appreciate it more than you know, and I appreciate each and every one of you. With that said, let's do Tippecanoe and Tyler 2. This is where I list the U.S. presidents in order to the best of my abilities. I don't have all of them yet. I'm working on it. In order to test my mental acuity at the end of stream. Here we go. Shout out AAA Bob. Oh, God bless you, herder of cats. What a great username. Did you know my towel girlfriend and I have a cat? His name's Kyle. He's adorable. He's not a very good, he's not very good at being a cat, but he's adorable. And, he mostly just lays around. He cuddles. He's kind of good. He's a good cat. I wouldn't say he's very good at hunting, but he doesn't really need to hunt. He's just a cat. He's great. His name's Cal. All right, here we go. Tippecanoe and Tyler 2. President Washington. Then President Adams, then President Jefferson, then President Madison, then President Monroe, then President Adams Jr., then President Jackson, then President Van Buren, then William Henry Harrison. I don't know number 10, 11, and 12, Tippecanoe and Tyler 2. So that's going to be Polk, Tyler, and then it's going to be 13 is Millard Fillmore. He's a bit of an odd duck, no pun intended. Then Pierce, Buchanan, Lincoln, Johnson, Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, Garfield, Chester A. Arthur, Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, McKinley, Teddy Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Harding, Coolidge, Hoover, FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. How you like them apples? your wonderful herder of cats, your wonderful Francine, OUA alumni, TA Sarah, some golf girl, Vero, so good to see you. You're all wonderful. Mishigama, every one of you. Tiffany Bob, and Chat Mom Lynn, and Chat Mom Bunny, and Kofi, and Bo. Kofi's a dog. He's also a towel. All right, TA Sarah, you have 400 Googleplexes worth of bonus points to distribute. Everyone did an excellent job today. Now, my name is Grant Smith Ellis. If you learned something today, if you want to pay it forward, if you benefited from the camaraderie in chat or otherwise, we had a very fascinating stream. We covered all sorts of topics. We learned about 1903 New York, pre-Abrahamic religions, 1907 New York, 1904 St. Louis, 1903 St. Louis. God only knows what else we went through. We learned about Proctorgate, and we talked about Rosemary Scapicchio, and then we talked about the Miles King case. Pretty sure we were discussing Stanley Kubrick at one point. I ranted about SJC Rule 119. This final is just going to be very intense, okay? I don't even want to tell you what the final exam in this class is going to be like. Hello, Nefarious Shenanigans. So good to see you. Now, it's very possible. T.A. Kevin from South Boston, excellent job. Now, I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the final in this class, it's 3 hours long, so don't worry, it's pretty short. You have to answer 180 multiple choice questions. You have to write a 5,000 word essay minimum, and then 3 1,000 word short answers, okay? Now, I've looked at this, and it is feasible if you answer one question every 2.9 seconds, and then type 88.9 words per minute constantly for 2 hours, you can do this. No breaks. I don't know how you're going to go to the bathroom. We'll work on accommodations at another point in time. So 180 multiple choice questions. You got to do one every 2.9 seconds. Then you got to type 89 words per minute for 2 hours straight. Okay? You got to write 8,000 words in 2 hours. Everybody ready? Go. TA Sarah is going to administer the final. Now, the good part of this, okay, the good part of this is that TA Sarah is in charge of bonus points. So even if you do terrible on the final, you just talk to TA Sarah, you get some bonus points, and then you don't do terrible on the final. Now, there will be no Tammany Hall style corruption. TA Sarah will only be giving the bonus points out and all the other TAs based on merit. Shell Hell, it's so good to see you. How are you doing? How are you, April? Right. Excellent job, everyone. So, bonus points, complex final exam, 3 hours. You all understand the format. I won't be accepting any questions on the substance of the final exam within 24 hours. So you make sure you get your questions in before then. We don't have a date for the final exam. I have to talk to the hypothetical towel registrar. It will be closed book, though. So you should know that. I mean, I know some of your other professors like the open book format. I don't really feel that's conducive to informational retention. So your entire final is closed book. You can have one note card, standard note card, okay? I'll hand them out the week before the exam. You may handwrite as much information as you want on that note card, okay? But otherwise, completely closed book. All right, everyone on the same page? Very good. How about John Quincy Adams had a pet alligator and skinny dipped, and I'm done. All right, well, you know, I've never skinny dipped, but one time, now I didn't skinny dip, but have you ever found yourself, you know, in redacted and, you know, redacted, and then redacted who works for redacted, and then redacted, both very powerful redacteds, are like, would you like to, you know, and then there's this random woman involved in all this. I'm really not sure where the random woman came from. Would you like to go to this swimming pool of redacted, which we didn't really have any place going to? And mind you, we were allowed to go there. I don't understand why we were there at that point in time. And so I found myself with this, I mean, it was a very strange group, okay? I found myself with redacted from redacted and redacted from redacted, and then this random woman who I don't really know how she came. I still to this day don't really know how she got involved in this. And they wanted to go skinny dipping. Now, that is not my thing, okay? I think, you know, just not for me, okay? Just not, all right? That's cool, but no. So I was like, I don't want to do that. Well, that didn't stop them. And now that I think about it, that was weird. I never really thought about it at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was just kind of, you know, being a towel. And, you know, I told you, I don't know. I forget how I found myself in that situation. I'm sure it started at a bar or something else ridiculous. But the point is, you know, now that I look back and I think about who those people were, I'm like, wait a minute. They really should not have been skinny dipping. And furthermore, I'm not really sure that we should have been with that random woman. I'm pretty sure I just walked away from them at a certain point. Now, there's more context to this. Okay, so I'll just talk. Oh, hold on. All right, here we go. So I'm just amiable, you know. So I'll just talk to people, and I knew, you know, these two people. So, you know, I think I should have realized. So I'm kind of oblivious. I probably should have realized, like, I don't know, how many years ago was this? Oh God. Oh my God. It was a long time ago. It was more than a decade ago. That's all it was more than a decade and a half ago. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm getting old. Apparently I'm aging backwards. I don't know how that's happening. But anyway, my point is, I probably should have realized at that moment, like, all was not as it seems, but I'm very oblivious. So I just was like, okay, that seems normal enough. I'm gonna go about my day now. Yeah, that was not very normal now that I think about it. I mean, you know, I was, I suppose, an adult, but it was still weird. The whole thing was weird. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't go skinny dipping. Still haven't to this day. So, yeah, there you go. I don't know how we got onto that story. I misredacted. No, that one, oh, that was years ago. God, that was over 15 years ago. That was a different life. Actually, I'll give you one more soliloquy before I go to bed. I've lived a lot of lifetimes in one life. I didn't realize it. Like, most people are not hanging out with the Patriots when they're sophomores in college. I mean, now that I think about it, that was kind of weird. I remember the first time someone gave me a Super Bowl ring in my college dorm room to hold, because my friend's brother won the Super Bowl with the Packers, and he came to visit, and he was like, want to see my Super Bowl ring? And I got to put it on. Now that I think about it, like, that's not, I mean, that, I thought it was very normal, but that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Like, that's just and that was just, you know, a regular life experience. And then, you know, I did all sorts of interesting things. But anyway, I always thought it was very normal. I was just like, oh yeah, you know, that's just life. You just meet interesting people and try to stay alive. And, you know, yeah. So anyway, we'll talk one day, you know. You have a stuffed tank top. I love, excellent job, Shell Hell. I love everything about it. Love everything about it. Good to see you, Shell Hell. God bless you. I hope you're doing well. This is Peep. He's our channel mascot. He has a microphone on him. He's a Peep. Yeah, that's his microphone. He's a Peep microphone. Can I just make Peep our microphone? How about that? Francine would love that. Alright, so anyway, someone told me the other day, they were like, Grant, one book, like, Grant, you can write about just like what you did one random day, like, and it would be fascinating. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm a very tired soul. I've tried very hard. I'm very tired. but I'm thrilled. I feel like I've made a difference. Seen a lot of the world. Got to see more countries, I think, than most people will ever see. And, it was not always happy, but it wasn't always sad. And I really think that, on the whole, I feel very blessed to be where I am today. I don't know how I'm alive, but I thank God and all of you for that every day. We need stories from your travel to Albania. I've never been to Albania. I want to go to Baku, Azerbaijan. Maybe not right now. It's a little close to Iran, so maybe I shouldn't go there for a little bit. It's on the Baltic, a little north of Turkey. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, so I've never been to Albania. I've been to, let's see, London, and I've been to Oxford, and I've been to Bath, and I've been to Stratford-upon-Avon, and I've been to London, and I've been to Rome, and Venice, and Rimini, and Pisa, and Naples, and Florence, and Venice, and Santorini, and Mykonos, and somewhere in Switzerland, although I don't remember why we were in Switzerland. And let's see, where else did I go? Amsterdam. Gotta love Amsterdam. I really enjoyed that one. I like that city very much. It has a Dunkin' Donuts. Did you know that? It's right in the middle of the square. I can get you there. And then where else have I been? Oh, Praha. I really like Prague. I stayed literally at the hotel directly across from the astrological clock. That was really cool. In Old Town. Yeah, so I've been all over the place. I've learned a lot, met a lot of interesting people. Saw black sand beaches on, what was that? I want to say that was Santorini. Might have been Mykonos, though. Yeah, it was Mykonos. Santorini is like a caldera. It doesn't really have beaches. There is like a way to get on the water by going down like this big, like, I don't know, like cable car thing. But Mykonos, one side of the island is black sand beaches. It's freaking stunning. And it doesn't seem real. It's like you're on Mars. And then the other side of the island is Super Paradise Beach and Super Paradise 2. That, I don't know what the fuck that is. I mean, that's like a party scene. That's some cool stuff over there. And the people are all naked, though. Like, the people just don't wear tops. I was a little thrown off by that. But I didn't want to judge. So I was like, listen, you want to just not have clothes on? Okay. That must be a Greek thing. So, anyway, and then Old Town Mykonos is very beautiful. I mean, the alleyways, bro, they're like, I don't know, they're like, no, that's an exaggeration. They're like maybe 7 feet to 9 feet. And dude, when you like are eating dinner in Old Town Mykonos, well, first of all, if you go to the end of Old Town, you're looking out at like Delos, which is like the birthplace of Apollo. I went to Delos. That was a pretty cool island. That really was a unique spiritual experience. It definitely changed me. The energy on Delos is very interesting. The most unique place I've ever been in my entire life energetically. It was like being in a very pure environment, like completely pure. It felt, I don't know, there's nothing like going to Delos. But that said, when you're at the tip of Mykonos, Old Town, you're like eating dinner in a restaurant. But the restaurant, you don't go inside it. You sit outside on this like 4-foot walkway with no railing where you could just fall into the ocean. And then you're like looking out on the Mediterranean at Delos. That's Mykonos. Mykonos is wild now that I think about it. And there must be a lot of money there, because I remember going through Old Town and all the shops, everything was very expensive. Very, very expensive. Like thousands of euros. I remember like the way it worked was you would go to the store and you would buy, like, if I wanted to buy, well, I wouldn't have bought this shit, but if I wanted to buy like a necklace or like something from these stores,
you have like this guy with these like gloves on, and he's in a tux, and he denotes the item you buy, and he puts it in this box, and then you pay them, and then they ship it to you. You don't even take possession of it. It was the strangest thing, now that I think about it. It was very weird. Like, there was more monetary value of product in Old Town Mykonos than I think I've ever seen outside of like some stores maybe in Venice and Paris. And it was a little out of place. Like, there was no security. Oh, and that's right. And they told me that the reason they didn't need security, I remember talking to one of the guys who ran one of the shops. They told me they didn't need security because it's an island. So if you steal something, you can't go anywhere. Even if you have a boat, like, they will find you. But most likely you're not going to get off the island. And like, the airport is like a one little airstrip. Oh, that's the coolest part of Mykonos. When you fly into Mykonos, you land on a runway that is legitimately, I don't know, it's very short. And you come over the water, and then all of a sudden there's land, and then you're like coming down on a hill, like that. It's a hillside. So you're coming into the island, you can't see anything, and then all of a sudden, like, the airport's there and you're landing. It's pretty cool. All right, so that's my story about my world travels. I don't know how we got onto that. Let's get out of here. If you benefited from today, if you learned something today, if you enjoyed today's stream, God bless all of you. Consider paying it forward with a small act of service or kindness. Consider a donation to our homeless veterans or service members or their families today. There should not be a single veteran or service member homeless in the United States of America against their will, or we have failed, ladies and gentlemen. Everything else is superfluous if those who put their lives on the line to fight for this system of government and constitution we all claim to love and value so much are not being taken care of or having their needs met. Until that number is zero, we have a lot more work to do as a society in the United States of America. So consider a donation to help our homeless vets or service members today. What if you like our furry friends, though? Peep's not an animal. He is fluffy, though. If you want to help our furry friends and our service members, consider a donation to an animal shelter or charity run by or that helps our service members or veterans. Great would help our furry friends. Great would help our service members or veterans. But if you can't find such a charity, consider a donation to our service members or our animals, our furry friends in general. Great way to help those who can't speak for themselves. Our furry friends need your help as well. But it doesn't have to be a donation. It can be something as simple as smiling at someone on the street, reaching out to a friend or family member you haven't heard from in a while, or yes, even giving away 200 tomato plants like Francis Futrell did one time and having them designated honorary towels during the outro forevermore. Yes, in that way, may we pray the current realpolitik continues to shift from one centered on preserving, expanding, and demonstrating our power, to instead one centered on preserving, expanding, and demonstrating our capacity to engage in small acts of service and kindness, rooted in unconditional love. Therein allowing us to live up to our Tau Eudaimonia, or Summum Bonum, our greatest good in the ancient Greek or Latin respectively, and in turn bring about a new digital epic defined by Aquarius the water bearer, standing tall and carrying a towel. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. From me and Peep, this is Towel News. Oh, I talked for so long my screensaver went on, so it's gonna get all mad now. Yes, get all mad at me. Yes, get all mad. I know, you're gonna get all mad. Alright, it'll come back in a second. So, with that said, oh, I'm back. It didn't even get all mad. That's good. Good to know. With that said, this is Towel News. Thank you for watching today. Thank you for being you. God bless all of you. It is coming past 9:31 p.m. Eastern here in Boston. It's 74 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. It is Thursday, August 27, 2026. It is 3:32 a.m. in South Africa, 4:32 a.m. in Tel Aviv, Israel, and 5:02 a.m. in Tehran, Iran. As the sun rises on another day, Friday, August 28, 2026, in the Middle East. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. That was a very long day. I'm very tired. I will get some rest now. Thank you for being here. April and Some Golf Girl and Mishigama and Francine and Tia Sarah and Moonbeam and
Turtle Louie, and TA Kevin from South Boston, and TA Tiffany Bob, and Towel Mom Bunny, and Towel Chat Mom Lynn, and Kofi and Bo, and everyone else, and Francine. You're all wonderful. Peep and I adore you. Until we see each other again, from a very tired towel, my name is Grant Smith Ellis. God bless these United States of America. God bless you all. May God protect us all until we see each other again. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, whatever the case may be. Thank you for being with me. This concludes your broadcast day on Towel News. Good night. God bless you all.